tonight is Jake Rattlesnake.
I like to go by Lord Rattlesnake or Lord Jake, most base chat of all the lands.
You don't have an argument. Present your paper or shut up.
Everyone's view is definitely inherently biased. So this is when debate becomes very interesting. I can hear what you're saying, but then I can see that you're dressed as a cat.
I'm a dog.
You said you like to go play fetch.
I wolf, yes.
So how does that tie into your relationship? Like, what are you looking for if you're a dog? I think that John Jr. will be president one day. If I was a gambling man, I'd put money on that.
Founder of Rattlesnake TV, Jake. Man, I really appreciate it, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Rattlesnake TV debate night. We have a fantastic one for you here. We have Rich Cooper and Andrew Wilson debating the topic of marriage. Is it worthwhile for men in the West to get married? Now, it is a contentious issue, one that is pretty big in our culture these days, and these gentlemen are both very influential in their fields, so it should be a great one. If you guys want throughout the debate, you can appeal to the moderator. If you feel like the other person is talking too much, over-talking, these sorts of things. If there is any filibustering going on, we will also have some moderator intervention. Any personal attacks, there will also be intervention from yours truly. So guys, we're going to have 5 minutes each on the clock for our opening statements. But before we get there, if you guys don't mind both introducing yourself, that would be great. Starting with you, Andrew.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. I've been doing debates for many, many years on a wide variety of issues, mostly in the political domain. I largely do consider this to be a political issue. I'm sure my opponent does as well. So that's who I am, and that's what I do.
And Rich?
Yeah, Rich Cooper. I've got a few YouTube channels. Been doing this for about 10 odd years. Entrepreneurs in Cars was the main one. Started doing some podcasting on the Unplugged Alpha after the release of the first book. And did a follow-up a few months ago on a second book. So first debate for me. I don't normally do debates. So it looks like I'm up against the champ today. We'll see how it goes.
We will see how it goes. Perfect. Well, yeah, you guys have both been on the channel before, both friends of the channel. Looking forward to this topic. We're going to be doing 5 minutes opening statements, and then we'll be doing around about an hour to 90 minutes, depending on how much time you guys have got of open dialogue. And then we're going to be reading about a few super chat questions from the audience. So with that, Andrew, do you want to go first with your 5 minute opening statement?
I can go first.
Awesome.
First, I'd like to thank my opponent for reaching out, coming out to the debate. I appreciate that very much. I do think that this is a critical issue. And TradCons have been quite a bit pussies on engaging in it, which is annoying to me, but I'm always happy to do so. It's an interesting phenomenon when you get two men together who agree on many, many things, but disagree on some core issues. So kind of the audience is now in a position to see a clash of ideas and make up their own mind. That's what the point is. In this particular case, we're diving into if marriage in the West is good for men. For the Christian ethicist, in this case me, this is a tough topic to navigate because it's full of nuance and the ideas have to be scrutinized through a lens of non-Christians. And you have to do that so that they'll understand where you're coming from. And I need to do it in a way that still supports the Christian view. Many people have trouble with nuance because they take critical thinking about a position as the adoption of the position itself. This is mostly just due to the fact that many people are fucking stupid. And there isn't anything I can do about that, so I don't even try. Instead, I want to meet them where they are and criticize the portions of the ideology I think are incorrect and allow them to do the same. In the case of Mr. Cooper, we will tangle on this core idea. Is marriage worth it or not? That's what it's going to come down to. And to explore Mr. Cooper's view on this, I've taken some time to review a lot of his content. I haven't read his entire book, but I have read many excerpts from it. And so, of course, I'm not going to be able to glean all the insight. I just didn't have time to read it. But here's what I got of his basic view. His view is totally rational, according to both his book and online videos. Essentially, the view is that the risk of marriage is due to the overlapping of the state and in the view of a contract, this is a really bad deal for men. Because marriage is a contract with the state and the state is seemingly biased against men, men have a lot to lose when it comes to assets and their most important asset, which is their children, to rulings which are unfair to the man when it comes to divorces. This is mostly true, and you're not going to get any argument from me on this. Further, he expands that the chances of divorce are very high. He cites 50% in many cases, but it's actually closer to 40, at least for first-time marriages. But in the spirit of good faith, I'm also going to kind of concede that that's pretty damn high. So another point of concession there. The rub comes in when we start to dive into these numbers, as they are actually very deceptive. Let me give you an example of why we have to be cautious on this. An off-cited reference by the Manosphere is that while it's true, men are most of the workplace fatalities which happen in the USA, especially the total, these fatalities are quite low. You'll hear feminists talk about this as well. That's kind of an overlap that they have, at least in totality. But the reason why this is important is because when we break down the fields in which men are actually dying, the majority of them are in construction, logging, and fishing. So if you wanted to mitigate risk when it came to work, for instance, you would probably tell men not to avoid working in jobs which are physically perilous, but to avoid working in specific jobs which are very perilous, because those are where you're going to incur the most amount of risk of death. Which means in order to avoid these risks in the workplace and serious injury, these fields are likely best avoided. And that's how you would do risk mitigation in marriage. It's no different. There are high-risk groups and there's low-risk groups. The Amish, for instance, have an almost zero divorce rate. You heard that right, zero. You can source this from Amish studies at Elizabethtown College, with researchers confirming this. Mennonites are about 1%, Mormons 18%, same with Catholics, Orthodox Christians even less than that, 11% to 12%. Muslims very low as well. Atheists surprisingly have only an 11% chance, but that's because they basically avoid marriage and get married very late in life. Christians in name only, or what are considered nominal Christians, these are people who don't go to church, they don't really do much in the way of religious practices, actually have a much higher percentage rate of getting divorced because of the self-ID. And there basically isn't anything to distinguish them from secularists or agnostics, and that's why those numbers are so high. When broken down by group, it gets even more low the more religious you are, and if you add a prenup to it, the risk becomes almost non-existent for most people. Suddenly, the threat of divorce seems actually quite low, depending on the group you're a part of. While I would suppose you wouldn't want to be part of the 17 or 18% in these groups, telling men that they have an 80 or 90% chance that their marriage will work out shifts the picture entirely. The breakdown is suddenly far less daunting, and the risk is now much more manageable as far as these categories go. This nuance is often missed in this conversation, but it should be highlighted. Marriage isn't very risky for people in these groups. It's risky for people who are in the secular groups, because those groups map on to the national average almost identically, about 39% to 41%. Give you an example of this, 5 to 10% of people who ever drink alcohol will become alcoholics. That could be argued to be very, very, very high risk, I suppose, but most men look at the risk factor and consider the trade-off acceptable and reasonably low for what they get out of the behavior of socially drinking. So as to the question, is marriage worth it in the West, specifically here in the United States, which is what we're talking about, for many men, yes, and for many men, no. Specifically secular men, it seems to be a big fat no. Their risk is on par with the national average, like I said. And this leads to cohabitation likelihoods, which become much higher, which leads to high risk for abuse for their children, along with other negative outcomes for their family dynamics. And those are the actual facts of the matter. Now, perhaps my opponent and I can agree these are facts, but he still feels the trade-offs aren't worth it, and we can dive into that. But I always view everything as a trade-off. Everything politically is a trade-off. It's always risk versus reward. Somebody's always going to get the shaft. So with that, that's my opening statement. And I would like to dive into these issues when my opponent's ready after his.
All right, Rich, you can have 6 minutes or so. Take as much or as little as you'd like.
Yeah, I won't need it. No, marriage is not worthwhile for a Western man living in the West. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Let's get started, boys.
Okay. So when you say that marriage isn't worth it for men in the West, How are you viewing that? Are you viewing that through risk assessment? You're just doing like a basic risk assessment for men in general?
Yeah, broadly speaking, I would say it's a risk assessment. When you take a look at the landscape, I know that you tend to separate divorce law from good marriage, but the reality of the world is that divorce is a reality for a good chunk of the guys that get married, about half of them. I know you're quoting divorce rates under 50%, but it seems widely accepted that when you blend in second and third marriages, it's well over 50%. But we'll just agree to disagree on that point. But yeah,
Well, hang on. Maybe we can get a point of clarification.
Sure, go ahead.
That first marriage is about 41%. Second and third marriages actually get higher. Sometimes with 55 to 60% is cited then.
I got 52% here on my Grok search, but sure, we'll just split the difference.
Okay. But it's high. It's unnaturally high.
Yeah.
The question becomes, though, why is it that this is always assessed as a monolith? We don't assess anything else like that. Like how I was just speaking about workplace fatalities. You wouldn't tell men not to work with their hands because it's risky, but you might advise men not to get into really high risk fields where working with their hands is going to account for those negative outcomes. How come is this always grouped as a monolith instead of being grouped into individualistic groups and assessed on high risk, low risk, which is what you would do with basically everything else on planet Earth?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to answer that. Well, when you're talking about marriage, you're not talking about jobs and careers, because jobs and careers vary. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, I did a co-op course for auto mechanics, and I've always been very interested in cars. I'm sure you're aware of that. It's a hobby of mine. It's more of a pastime. It's enjoyable. And I realized working on cars at the time, because they used a lot of asbestos on the drum brakes, and I was always assigned as the guy that was going to do the repairs on drum brakes for some reason. Shocking. They give the kid, the new guy, that job. I didn't know a whole lot about the toxicity and the damage that you do to your body and your lungs over time, until it hit me like a frying pan to the forehead. And I decided, yeah, I'm not going to do this job. This isn't something I want to make a career out of. Let's find something that's a little safer. So I moved from working with my hands and fixing cars to office work, I guess. You don't really have that choice with marriage. It's like, if you live in a way that looks like marriage to the state, regardless of whatever it is you want to call it or how you want to blanket it, the way the government works is they examine your relationship. And even if it wasn't a marriage or even looked like marriage, there's been a number of circumstances and cases, which I'm happy to talk about, where they called it a marriage, even though the two people together did not call it a marriage, and the people around them did not call it a marriage, or their kids did not call it a marriage. So I think
wouldn't that lead to my point, though? So if it's the case that you're not advocating for marriage in low risk groups, that is necessarily going to lead to a larger amount of cohabitation. You're not protected from the state when you cohabitate, and the outcomes are generally worse anyway. But it doesn't really, none of this actually answers to the question of, if it's the case that certain groups and certain belief structures and certain ways you live your life lead to a much, much more diminished chance of divorce, then why would you advise people, like, for instance, let me give you the easy example, the Amish. Sure. What would your objection be to Amish people getting married? They basically never get divorced.
Yeah, and that works out well for them right now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cultural values that support that. There's a lot of environmental factors that support strong unions in a perpetuity with the Amish, right? That doesn't exist in the rest of the world.
It does. It does. The idea in religious marriage, and the reason the divorce rates are so much lower, when you dive into the literature behind this, because it's actually a very studied phenomenon, because of a support network.
With the Amish, you're saying?
No. To all of these various religious groups that I cited. This would include Mormons, Catholics, Orthodox, various reasons cited for their divorces and why the divorce rates are so much lower than the national average. And it seems to really come down to this, and this is a concession I can generally get out of the people I debate in your sphere, because I think it's just kind of obvious and true, that if women don't have a reinforcement mechanism for behaviors, then, and this is true of men too.
Argument, and that's what you tend to do. You give ought arguments rather than.
No, this is a descriptive is argument. It is the case right now, factually, that these rates of divorce and the highly religious are much, much lower than the national average. So significantly, in fact, that your chances of getting a divorce seem to be mitigated in the acceptable risk factor, at least in comparison to the
what religion
historic
is that?
standard. Mhm. That's descriptively true. So
Yeah,
that's
but
not
the
a prescription.
Like, are we talking about Christianity here?
No, we would talk. Well, no, what we're doing is we're isolating groups. So let's take all of marriage, and then we're going to break it into the categories of the people who are getting married. So
Okay.
so people who are getting married are going to fall under different categorizations. They could be secularists, they could be swingers, they could be polygamists, they could be atheists, they could be devout Catholics, they could be devout Orthodox. The thing is, the reason it's more useful to break it up that way is because then we can peer in and see if each of these groups has the same exact risk as each other group when it comes to marriage, and we find out that's not the case at all, and that these risks are mitigated descriptively right now if you're part of a religious organization that is much more devout. And the more religious you are, seemingly the more happiness you report and the lower your divorce rates become.
So your answer is just be more religious.
No, what I'm asking is, what is the thing that's causing that? What is the thing that's causing these groups to have such a more mitigated amount of divorce in comparison to the national average
Well, you want to
from
start
secularists?
with
What is
family
it?
law, that it's written to encourage women to leave men and divorce rape them?
Wait, what was that? I'm sorry.
Do you want to start with family law and how it's written to encourage women to divorce rape men?
I'm not disputing that.
Okay. Well, that's a
That
problem.
it just doesn't have any, because you're not contending with my point. What are the things
I
inside
hear
of these
you, but I mean,
religious
the point still remains
institutions?
is that's still a valid threat.
Yeah, but what are the things inside of these religious institutions that is causing this mitigation where the risk is so much lower than the national average from people who are not inside of these religious institutions? Not asking whether or not people should be more religious.
Mhm.
I'm asking us to make an assessment on what are the factors here that are contributing to them having such a low rate in comparison to the national average. That's the question.
Okay. So what's the difference in rates between Christians and non-Christians?
Depends on the denomination. But I just went through
Average
them
it out.
broadly.
Average it
I
out.
can go through. I mean, I can go through them again if you'd like. Here, I'll pull them back up 1 second.
Yeah. Just average them out.
So when we're going through each denomination, we can start with, we'll kind of start with the lowest risk. The lowest risk is going to be the Amish, right? Second is going to be Mennonites. Then you're going to have Mormons and Catholics at almost the same rate. Orthodox at a lesser rate than that, about 12%. And the list from there goes on and on. The more traditional the value set is with what are called Protestant high churches, meaning the more they go to church and things like this, they end up in a risk mitigation that's almost 20% lower than the national average as well. The only Christians who fall into the same average as non-Christians are going to be what are called nominal Christians. So these are people who self-ID as being a Christian or cultural Christianity, but they don't actually involve themselves in the church or in that lifestyle at all. They just call themselves that. That's called nominal Christianity.
Well, I appreciate the lesson there, but you still didn't answer the question. What's the difference in the divorce rates between Christians and non-Christians? Let's just use atheists as an example.
It's as high as 25%, the distinction between that and the national average. The reason
So it's
atheists
9% versus 25%.
What's that?
So it's 9% versus 25% is what you're saying.
Well, again, it depends on the denomination.
Okay.
The question's lacking specificity.
Okay, but using the Christians versus the atheists, you're saying it's 9% versus 25%.
No. Atheists are about 11%, roughly, depending on which source you're looking at. But the reason why atheists have a lower than the national average is because they get married much older usually, or they just don't participate at all. But those are also self-ID'd atheists. When you're talking about secularists themselves, there's many, many more of them than there are atheists, and those seem to account for the overwhelming majority of what constitutes the national average for these things. So I'm looking for what are the things which is causing such a mitigation between the 40%, which is the national average, And the individualistic groups, which have much lower averages, as low as, 17, 18%, there's obviously something going on in these religious groups that's causing them to divorce much less than non-religious groups.
Well, in most religions, it tends to enforce the marriage and the consistency of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the idea is
So it would
that,
seem that it is a little bit
yeah.
more successful. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that still doesn't remove the risk factors, and it doesn't also address the issues of modern women not being marriageable material.
Well, hang on. Those are two different arguments. Whether or not you think that modern women are marriageable, we're talking right now just about the risk of divorce. What do you consider to be an acceptable divorce rate?
Well, given family law, 0 would be acceptable.
So zero. Well, if that's the case, then there could never be an institution of marriage, because there's always going to have to be at least some divorce, right? Based on some circumstance. That's reasonable within reason.
Yeah, sure. But given family law and how hostile it is toward fathers and the likely outcomes that exist with them, would you like me to go over the outcomes?
They can be real bad.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, but that's not what's in dispute here.
Okay, well, what are we in dispute of right now?
Well, what we're in dispute of is that how many of these men who are in these particular groups are ever going to have to deal with those outcomes if their divorce rates are really low because they're in those groups. It could be the case that the outcomes are bad,
Lower. It's not really low. It still exists.
but that's
I can
really
give you
low.
lots of examples of,
Well-
of guys that. Sorry,
Well,
go
you,
ahead.
you just try to get it to 0%, just like there's no divorce. That's not utopian. It sounds very utopian to me.
What's wrong with that?
It's impossible, like pragmatically impossible, that you're going to completely eliminate divorce for any number of different reasons. One could just be easy, like somebody is diddling kids in the marriage. You're going to, they
Okay,
want a
but
divorce. That seems rational to me.
Why would anybody invite the government into their life to make decisions about their wealth, their access to their children, how the knot is untied, the power shift that goes from him to her during the untithing of the knot? Why would anybody want to take on that risk given the outcomes and how bad they are?
Because the outcomes are only bad if you get divorced. They're not bad if you
Right.
don't get divorced. And so
Okay.
if your chance of mitigating the divorce is really high and your chances of not being divorced are over 80%, if you're part of one of these groups, then that seems like an acceptable risk mitigation, right?
Well, it's only marginally lower.
No, it's not marginally lower. It's much higher. I mean, much, much lower, significantly lower.
Well, you're giving me
11%
numbers
compared to
around
the
11%
40%
for
national
atheists.
average is what? Go ahead. Sorry.
You're giving me numbers for 11% for atheists, yeah?
Well, no, also Orthodox. Orthodox is very low too.
Okay. So it's marginally different, but the risk is still there, and the risk is that bad that it doesn't warrant entering the gate. Like, your whole argument always seems to go back to like it ought to be this way in a perfect world.
No.
But the problem with Christianity and the churches in general is they're compromised. Right? Like toxic
Some of them.
ruin most Western religions today. They're painting rainbows on churches or allowing trans kids to attend, even in Christian churches. There's been plenty of examples of that. So
Yeah,
there's
but I
no-
mean,
like, there's no real
secularism.
buffer.
Yeah, secularism's no protection from that. That's the first argument. It's not like you being not a Christian is going to protect you
Right, so I
from
mean, you're
having
saying
your.
Christianity
Hang on. Let me
slightly
respond.
better, but it's still
No, it's
doesn't
not just
resolve the
slightly
issue.
better. It's overwhelmingly better. Descriptively, now it's true. So let's untangle a couple things.
Yeah.
The first thing is, if we're talking about an is versus an ought, I'm not even to what we ought to do. I'm talking about what is descriptively true right this second, not what is future and utopian, right? Coach Greg Adams made this mistake too because he's a moron, but I don't think you seem like a smart guy. I'm talking about what's true now, not what's true in
Yeah,
300
and
years. What
what's
is true right now is that
everybody that gets married as a man faces the wrath of family court and toxic feminism.
no, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. They don't
Yes, they
face
do.
it. In fact, in many of
You
these
can be-
groups, almost none of them face it.
My friend, I have a gentleman that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago that was in a Christian Orthodox marriage, 8 kids.
Mhm.
The wife and the pastor turned against him, threw him out of the court. He got divorced, raped, alienated from his kids. Would you like me to keep telling you more stories?
Do you
about
think,
like
do you,
that?
hang on, Rich, do you think that because some bad things happen to some people, that means all people in that group are going to experience those
No, but
bad
what
things?
I'm saying is that there is no consistency with the churches these days. It's not a buffer. It doesn't offer a significant enough of a improvement in the outcome that I would say that it justifies taking the risk of living in a way that looks like marriage to the government.
Okay, well, let's try this then. If that's the argument, if the argument is any risk is too much risk, then what is the proper way in which we raise children in the 21st century? Can you walk me through how a guy who is, I don't know, 23 wants to have kids?
Sure.
Okay. How's he supposed to do that without having a bunch of wealth that he's not going to have at 23? That's just not going to happen.
Right.
How does he actually have children and raise them absent moving
That's a great
into
question.
Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me finish the question. Absent risk mitigation. So what I would say is there's no way to have good outcomes for children absent being in a married home in a general sense. There are sometimes where it can work out. Most times it doesn't. The outcomes for the children are bad. Cohabitation outcomes are almost always universally bad.
Mm-hmm.
But risk mitigation, we're talking about through traditional marriages in the church, seem to buffer against this in a significant way. So I'm 23, I want to have kids. How do I do that absent a wife exactly and get good outcomes? Can you tell me that?
No,
No.
I don't have a solution to that for a 23-year-old. But what I can tell you is there's lots of opportunities as a man navigates life, becomes more seasoned, creates some value and renown for himself, to structure himself in such a way where he can have children, still parent them, and not invite the government into his life. And that
but that's not going to be available for the majority of men, right?
Marriage at 22 or 23. No, you're right.
But that's not going to be available to the majority of men. The vast majority of men, that's going to be unavailable to.
Yeah, and that's the shitty thing about the environment that men live in today, is that they're forced to deal with the reality of, hey, I'm religious, I'm 20 something odd years old, I want to get a gal and have a family and have a bunch of kids running around, have a good time with them. I get it, children are wonderful, but the chances of them being successful in the outcome that you'd like to predict for them is very, very low.
No, it's very high. That's my whole point.
No, hear me out. Men are not equipped very well to deal with modern women today, and the type of women that are available to men, the inventory that exists in the pool, are of such low quality. It just doesn't make sense to live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You can love a woman, you can have a relationship with a woman. I just don't recommend that men live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, because that's where the potential outcomes can get really problematic. You can still have children with women and raise children.
How?
But you don't want to live in a way that looks like.
Yeah, how are they supposed to do that, dude?
Well, there's a few ways. I'm glad you asked that question, because there's a few ways to mitigate the risk, or at least reduce it somewhat. Canada would be off the table completely, because there's no opportunity here to do that. But you could move to a state like Kentucky, for example, or Florida. I can't remember what the other two are, but there's a website called the National Parenting Org, and they produce a report card every year telling you which states are not hostile towards father. Notice I don't say friendly towards fathers, but not hostile towards father, where the outcome is a default 50-50 arrangement.
Yeah, but what about the outcomes for the kids? That's what I'm concerned with.
Yeah, so the outcomes for the kids are obviously better when the parents stay together, and you reduce the risk for the mom to leave dad. And Kentucky successfully did that. They lowered the divorce rate by 20% by assuming default 50-50 custody on divorce. She would have to prove that he's some kind of a degenerate piece of shit, drug dealer, gangster, or something like this, where it would warrant her getting custody. But if you live in that state now, they're seeing the divorce rate drop by 20%.
Well, then you've created a contradiction. You've created a contradiction here, Rich, because earlier when I asked you, I said, Rich, why is it that if you're in a low risk category as a group for getting divorced, shouldn't you do it? And you said, well, any risk is too high. But now you advise that men go to a state where they still run. Hang on, Rich. Hang on. Let me finish, bro. I just heard you out. The contradiction here is obvious. If I ask you, why shouldn't people who are in already mitigated low risk groups for getting divorced shouldn't do it? You say, because the risk is high if there's even one divorce. And then I go, okay, but what should they do then to raise children? You say, well, they should go to some place where it doesn't assure them not getting divorced. Well, that's hang on. It only helps mitigate the risk. And it's like, but that's my argument. My argument is that these groups are already mitigating risk. Why is it that you shouldn't be gravitating towards the groups which mitigate risk when that's your advice to men now?
Great. So what we're saying then is Kentucky mitigates the risks better than Christianity.
No, it doesn't.
Apparently.
No, it assists with a de-incentive, but if you were a Christian in Kentucky, then your risk would be mitigated by double.
We're going back to the ought to, in a perfect world for Christians.
No, descriptive is right this second. If it's the case that it's lower than the national average overwhelmingly, which it is, and then you combine that with disincentives for women from the state, it sounds like it's a very low risk endeavor, right, Rich?
It's a high enough risk that it's not worth any man to live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. I mean, like, even
but you just said to move to a place where
for a second, Andrew,
I'm so
you gotta let me talk sometimes too. Okay.
I've been letting you talk.
In heavy like Eastern Orthodox countries like Russia, the narrative is still women get 80% of custody orders, right? This is across the world. This isn't just in North America. This is how we see family courts and religion apply to men and women's lives. And the whole point of a marriage, the whole point of marriage and children, you would say what? To pass on your name, pass on your DNA, to name your sons, to leave a legacy behind? What would you say it is?
Well, it depends on the worldview. From the Christian worldview, we feel that there's a commandment to do so, to multiply and to get, and for the most part, for most men to get married. Not every man's called to do that, but generally speaking, most of them seem to be. They seem to want to be with a woman. They seem to want to have children with that woman, and they're commanded to do this. From a secularist perspective, or a non-Christian or a non-religious person, it seems to vary based on things like you mentioned, perhaps legacy, perhaps they have different incentives for why it is that they want to do that. I couldn't begin to tell you all of them, because secular marriage to me is bizarre. It makes no sense. I don't know. I don't even understand it. But I do want at least
doesn't make much sense in general.
I think marriage does make sense in general.
Not really.
I think, well,
it fails most of the time.
It doesn't fail most of the time. That's a lie. It doesn't. It doesn't.
When you look at the data around the people that
show me the data that marriage fails most of the time. Let's start with that.
With what? Sorry.
The data that marriage fails most of the time.
Yeah. So when you look at the data on people that live in a way that looks like marriage, so there was a study done. Aaron and Acevedo covered this. The effects of love on long-term relationships. And they found that less than 13% of people in the study, and I can't remember the count. I think I wrote it down over here. Hold on a second. It was 6,000 something people, 6,070 people over a span of 8.84 years. And again, the title of the study is, Does Long-Term Relationship Kill Romantic Love? 12% are in love and 3% are in a state of obsession or bliss. I think that's why most guys would want to get married, is they think that they're going to be in a state of obsession or bliss with their wife into perpetuity and be granted access to lots of enthusiastic sex whenever they want it. And that's not the reality that most men experience when they get into it. And some of that data supports that, suggesting that most people that are still together over 8.84 years don't even like each other. So you're saying that, yeah, the divorce rate is, I don't know, 40 something percent or whatever it happens to be. Then you got to look at the people that are staying together out of maybe convenience because they're too cowardly to leave. They're not good enough looking to leave. They might be poor. They might have other anchors sort of tying them down. But there's a lot of people that stay in long-term relationships that don't even like each other. Like, the chances of you being in love with your spouse is very low.
To what?
Yeah,
so what? So the question here that I'm asking you is,
well, the point that I'm making is,
man wants to have kids
in long-term relationships, because you're saying it's worth
it. But let's
live in a way that look like marriage, and I'm telling you, the data suggests that that's not reflective of what.
Yeah, here's the problem with the argument, where it holds no muster and it doesn't even contend with what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is, if you want to have kids, you want to have children, and you want good outcomes for the children, what other than marriage, especially from a religious perspective, is going to create better outcomes for the children, Rich? That's the question. Now, you keep defaulting to, what about me, the father? What about me?
Yeah, 'cause
This
the
guy.
question
I
is,
get. Hang on, I get
marriage
that.
is worthwhile for men, so I'm talking about men, right? Like, this is the angle, this is the prompt.
Yeah, but the thing is like,
I'm always trying to bring it back to men.
but you see how men want to have kids,
Sure.
and so they want their kids to have good outcomes. And
Sure.
so, how are men going to have their kids have good
Well, you can
outcomes?
have kids and
Absent.
not live in
Hang
a
on,
way that
hang on,
looks
hang
like
on.
marriage to the government.
Yeah. Okay. How?
You have kids with a woman, you
Mhm.
don't live together, and you parent them together in separate homes.
What's that looks the same as divorce. That looks the same as a divorced arrangement to me. How
And
is
that's
that
the
different?
that's the unfortunate reality of the world that we live in today.
What? So your solution is if you get so here's your idea.
The
Your
only
idea
difference is the
if
man
you
is
get
still the head of the
divorced.
household.
Hang on. Here's what you just said. If you get divorced,
Hang
one
on,
of
but the
am I
biggest
allowed to
difference, Andrew,
respond
is that
now?
the men are still the head of the household when they run the relationship that way
They're
versus
not the head
divorce.
of the household.
Women
How?
are still sorry?
How are they the head of the household if you're not even living together? There is no household.
You're paying for everything.
Yeah. So your solution is have two separate houses. So you're paying double for two
That's
separate houses, and then split
that's one way to
parenting
do it.
time.
Yeah, that's
Split
one way to do
parenting
it.
time with the woman.
What's that?
Your idea here is pay for two different domiciles and then split parenting time with the woman. Now, if we had a divorced relationship, you would be living in two domiciles and splitting the parent time with the woman. So
Yeah, I don't
hang on, so if the risk of divorce is, well, you may not be able to see your kids and you may have to be
Let's
paying
deal with
for
one
your
thing at
hang
a
on,
time here,
Rich,
because I
let
don't
me
think that
finish,
men
bro.
are
Are
needed
you gonna
to
let
do
me finish
much
my
of the
point?
parenting when children are small.
Let me
Specific
finish my
well,
point.
you're talking about parenting, right?
Yeah,
So
let me finish my point
trying to
and then
address
respond to it. Then respond to it after I finish it. Your worldview just showed that there's no distinction. If I get a divorce, I have to pay for my wife's new living or ex-wife's new living arrangement in a new domicile through child support, and then I
Got it.
have to take care of the kids. Under your view, you're just saying go ahead and get cut right to the end and go ahead and begin paying for her domicile and support. It's literally
Okay.
you're just asking men to live like they're divorced.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
There's no difference.
Yeah, there is a difference because
What?
the court, well, hear me out, I'll explain it to you.
All right.
The court is running the show when you get divorced. Women run the show when you get divorced. They leverage family law for their benefit. They're getting 80% of the custody orders. Whenever there's child support that's required, it flows from the father to the mother. If there's alimony that's arranged, 97% of the time it goes from the father to the mother. And she controls most of the outcomes in a unilateral fashion when it comes to the family courts. But if you're with a woman and she says, hey, I love you, and you say, I love you too, sort of thing, and she says, let's have a family, I'd like to have kids, you say, fine. But here's my boundary. I can't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. So I'm going to pay for a house. I'll rent a house. I'll look after you. I'll come and visit you and the kids. But we can't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government.
Now, Rich, what prevents the
We're running
woman,
the show.
since there's children involved, what prevents that woman from going and pursuing child support anyway and just breaking up with you?
She can, but she doesn't
Yes,
get
she
anything
can.
else.
This doesn't mitigate anything.
Yes, it does.
No,
you don't have
what?
to lose half your shit.
You're already paying for half of their shit. You're paying for all their shit.
No, you don't lose half of your assets, Andrew.
Yes, you do. You're
I think
already
no, you
paying
don't.
half your assets so this woman can live apart from
You're
you.
you're not living in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You're
So,
not
yeah, but
married. You're not living in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You understand the difference, right?
No. And here's why.
For family law to force a man, to compel a man to pay alimony, it has to, like, you have to be married, or you have to live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. So if you want to go about it a certain way, like, we're talking about a strategy here now at this point.
Yeah.
If you want to apply a strategy to the game to sort of circumvent some of the risk profiles, then that's one way to do it. That's just one way to do it. I mean, there's other ways that we can.
Yeah, but let's focus on this one real quick,
Sure.
because to me it's incoherent. The idea here is the woman can still
It's
pursue.
incoherent because it doesn't align with your worldview with Christianity.
No, it's incoherent because when it's applied to what it is that you're trying to avoid, you're just skipping to the thing you were trying to avoid in the first place. The idea here is that if you get a divorce, you're going to split assets. The idea and be paying towards your wife's ex-wife's new life. That's what you're trying to avoid. Under your view, though, you're just doing the same thing. You're just paying for her assets in the same. Hang on, in the same exact way, and she can still pursue legal action through the kids. That doesn't stop her from doing that at all.
Yeah,
and
so
you have taken out the risk mitigation now of religion. So there actually seems like there's an incentive for her to do that.
the the remedy that she can apply for will be child support, right?
Yeah.
She can't apply for alimony. She can't apply for half of his shit because they're not living a way that looks like marriage. The state will always make sure the children are looked after. That's what they do.
So there's
you're
no avoiding
removing
the state.
2/3. Well, let's just agree on something. Like some of the biggest risks for men are what? Child support, alimony, and the loss of half of their assets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just eliminate 2 of those risks. And the
No.
only thing that you would have to deal with is child support versus
No.
marriage, where she can take half of your shit, alimony, and child support.
You
That's
you,
the
ha- you
difference.
hang on. You haven't done that exactly.
Yeah, you
So
have.
no, you haven't eliminated this risk. So here's why you haven't eliminated it. You're still paying out just like you were divorced. You're still paying out just as though you were divorced for this woman to be taking care of your kids for half of her assets, and you're living apart from her. And what this does is this also creates a massive problem, which is that the outcomes for the children are still not going to be as good as if they were at home with mommy and daddy together, because we have all the data in the world to provide for this. That in split households,
How much
the
data do you
negative
have on the model that I just described to you as a solution to
that would be
this
that
problem?
would be your burden, not mine.
Well, it's one version. It's one version that I'm.
No. But that would be your burden. You would need to show me the proof that works better than the model of being heavily religious and in marriage for mitigation. That wouldn't be on me to prove to you. It'd be on you to prove to me.
Well, they're not going to study something like that, but I can tell you from evidence that I've seen that it works quite well.
What evidence?
People that I know that do it.
That's anecdotal. That's no place in a debate. You can appeal to
There's not a lot
anecdote.
of people that do this, Andrew. Like you realize this.
That's anecdotal.
Right, but you understand that men are having to become creative when it comes to the notion of having children without losing their shit. One of the other things you see guys trying to use to solve this problem is surrogacy, which is another bizarre one, right? Then you don't have the mom involved at all.
Yeah, but that's only going to be available to men who have wealth.
So become wealthy. It's one
Yeah,
option.
well, but you see what I'm saying? Like this creates a massive problem. Most men are not going to become wealthy.
No, I realize
Most
it.
people are not
If
going to
you're
become
poor,
wealthy.
If you're not successful, then you have to follow the masses. This is why so many guys get destroyed, because the game is rigged against them. The population has no real fair way to navigate relationships and children consecutively.
Yeah, but here's the problem that you have here with this analogy. The first is when you appeal to an anecdote. If I were to give you a similar anecdote, oh, I know a lot of guys who do that and it doesn't work out for them. You wouldn't believe me because that doesn't tell us anything. That's one. The second problem here is one thing about marriage that's useful for us is being able to track divorce. That's really easy because it all goes
we got
through a
lots
state.
of data on that.
Yeah, we got lots of
Everybody
data
doesn't know
on
that.
divorce and the statistics around it.
Yeah.
And the problem that you have here is that you're saying, well, men are getting destroyed because of how many of these, marriages end in divorce. But that's actually only true of some groups. Some groups, your risk of divorce is very, very small. It's very tiny. It's well within what I would consider.
Tell me again, what is the difference in risk for divorce for people that are Christians versus
It
non-Christians?
depends on which type of Christian we're talking about. If you're
Average,
nominal Christian, you're on par with the national average. If you're devout Catholic or devout Orthodox, it's down to 12% to
Versus-
18% versus 40%.
12 versus 40.
That's a huge, we're talking about now well within acceptable risk. If it's the case that 5 to 10% of people who ever have a drink are going to become alcoholics,
Right.
you wouldn't say that that's so much risk that you should never have a drink. That's within what I would consider acceptable barriers of risk. You're now part of an 80 to 90% of success rates rather than you only view it as 10 to 12% failure rate. I view it as an 80 to 90% success rate.
You still have way too many variables when it comes to marriage, even if you are a Christian, when it comes to the churches, the
What?
pastors that you're dealing with, who she is, as far as a woman before you marry her, the fact that women always reserve the right to change their mind at any given time about you later on down the road. We've seen many, many religious people get divorced and get absolutely fucking cleaned out.
Sure, but why don't the numbers then reflect it within the individualistic
I
group?
don't know. I haven't collected the data, but I mean, you've
But I
also
just gave you the
polls
data.
at some of the data as well that I've talked about.
You can look at
You
the
also have
data.
scientists say that the Earth is warming when we all know that's not happening. It's low.
Yeah, but hang on. There's a big difference between people producing warming models, which are vastly hypothetical and predictive, versus gathering data which is established because we just have raw numbers of how many people are divorced within which category, which group.
I mean, the
So,
vast
do
majority
you
of
think you're
climate
gonna?
models, they try to point to statistics that are as accurate as possible, but
Well, I mean, we have accurate records of how many Islamists
Sure.
have been divorced, man. That's not hard to gather.
Yeah.
That's not hard data to figure out. And so,
why
if
aren't
that's
you
the
pushing
case,
for Hindu type of religion since the divorce rate's lower, or for Amish
I agree.
style living?
Yeah,
divorce
actually, I
rate's
agree.
lower?
What I'm looking for is what is the things inside of these religious models that's keeping the divorce rate so low compared to the average. And I think that that's what's left out of the nuance of the
Okay,
discussion.
well, tell us.
Well, here's what's going on. And again, well-studied phenomenon is that religion operates on a support network. So you end up having people who have shared like-minded value structures, especially for your wife. Well, that's a big thing because if women are hanging out with like divorcees and they're hanging out with promiscuous women and things like that, they tend to often follow suit based on those social pressures.
Correct.
Men actually do this too, to a lesser degree, but they do it too, depending on the friend and in-group they have. They tend to do more or less degenerate behavior, depending on how those groups play out. When it comes to women, they do the same exact thing. But now if you have a support group and a support network that's like-minded and is focusing specifically on the same value structures, which is stay married, here's what the role of the woman is, et cetera, it creates a reinforcement in those communities, which mitigates against divorce. And it gives a support network to people having marital troubles. That seems to be what's going on. And that's not accessible to the general population outside of that.
So why are there still issues within the churches?
Well, again,
Significant issues, in fact.
you're not going to,
And,
you're
the
asking.
other thing that I would raise as well too, Andrew, is like, we talk about Christianity, and I'm for it, man. Like, my mom's family is Christian Orthodox. I grew up in that space, like I understand it well. But America, where you live, is mostly a Christian country, wouldn't you say so?
No, it's mostly a nominal Christian country.
What's the difference between nominal Christian and Christian?
Yeah, so a nominal Christian. So the trans debate. The trans debate. A person could say, "I'm a woman." They're not actually a woman. You would agree, right?
So you're saying that they're calling themselves Christians, but they're not real.
Yeah,
Christians.
and the reason they're nominal, and we can make that distinguishment between nominal and
They have to be
non-nominal.
real Christian.
Hang on. We can make the distinction between nominal and non-nominal based on how much they involve themselves in their church, how many sacraments they partake in, and how often they actually participate in that community. This is broken down by Pew for divorce stats and other organizations as well, which shows the reason like traditional Catholics have such a low divorce rate in comparison to the national average is because many of them partake in the church functions and the sacraments, which helps reinforce the ideology of the family that they're supposed to work through marital issues rather than get divorced, including for the sake of the kids. That's why. So when people say America is mostly a Christian country, it's actually not factually true. It's mostly a nominal Christian country. It is true that like 65% or 70% of people will identify as being a Christian. But when you look at their behaviors in society, they act no different than a secularist non-Christian. They don't go to church. They don't participate in sacraments. They don't take their religion very seriously. It's called like cultural Christianity, but nominal Christianity is fine too.
All right. Well, I mean, since Jake invited me to do this conversation / debate with you, I was listening to any YouTube conversation you had with anybody, James Sexton, Coach Greg Adams. There's been a few other ones where you've had these conversations, and you've changed your story in some of those conversations. I don't know if you've updated your beliefs, but I've heard you say in the past that the vast majority of America is Christian. But now you're
hang on,
saying that they're not
nominal Christian.
Okay, so this is new. So now this is a new model. You're saying.
Well, it's not a new model. What we're doing. So,
well, I mean, there's recordings out there of you.
When we're talking about specificity, and by the way, I reserve the right to update my worldview based on new information at all times, right? So
I'm
whether or not
happy to do
if
that.
I've
Hoping that
ever
you
said
update my
before,
worldview today, Andrew.
yeah. So if I've ever said before, you know, the United States is mostly a Christian nation,
Right,
but
but
didn't
you
put
have a
in the
tendency to kind of
caveat, but didn't
flip-flop
put
is
in
what
the
I'm noticing.
caveat of nominal, it's actually irrelevant, right? I do think
Okay.
that it is the case that most people identify, the majority of people identify as being Christian, but I'm
Right.
trying to figure out what that means, right? So
Yeah. So
we,
what I was going to get to is this. I mean, you know, if America is a Christian country or nominal Christian country, you know, let's call it, it's passed laws and legislation that aren't aligned with the religion. And it's created an environment that's hostile to its Christian, you know, participants.
agreed.
So what's the solution to that, Andrew?
Well, the solution to this from a political standpoint is going to be likely the push for mass marriage reform.
Which would look like what?
Now, well, it would look like exactly what you're talking about in Kentucky, where you start with grounding localized laws, which will do things like immediate custody disbursement between both couples, things like this. The groundswell of traditionalism, which is moving back into the mainstream, especially from the right wing, is now beginning to make more demands like this, and they have more access to the legislators to do this. That's step one. But in the interim time, we have to have some way in which children are still being produced and men don't lose hope because all hope is lost. You're going to be part of this 40% statistic or 50% statistic and you're screwed. That's actually not the case. The case is that individually, if we break down various groupings of the types of people who are getting divorced, some groups are at way higher risk than other groups. And that's factually true. And if you're a part of a group that has a very low risk of divorce, it suddenly becomes much more attractive to men to do. And they're less likely actually to get destroyed in a divorce because they're not even likely to get one in the first place.
So if we examine the change that's required, we realistically need to say no more to women. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah.
What's the plan for that given the environment that we live in, not the environment that we ought to live in?
You mean the descriptive is? Like, what do we want to do about it right this second?
Because nobody's able to say no to women today.
What do you mean by that?
Everything that happened, well, the vast majority of things that happen in culture and politics is all to support a female first primary social order. It's all to make men less and make women more.
I don't disagree with that. I think that
feminism is the supremacy movement today. It's not about equality anymore. It's about destroying men.
Well, it's about removal of the patriarchy.
Yeah, it's about the removal of man from the household and making the state and women the head of the household. So that dynamic is shift completely. It's put everything on its head.
Mm-hmm.
So Christianity, as you idealize it, you know, the ought to version of Christianity is not supporting.
I don't get why you keep saying that this is an ought when it's descriptively true right now as we speak. It is the case that these groups exist right this second as we speak, where your risk of getting divorced is greatly mitigated by just being part of these groups because they do tell women no. The traditional churches, tell women it's not perfectly idealized. It's a case right this second, right now. What do you mean?
In a perfect idealized church system, but the church system is not like that.
Yes, it is
compromised by toxic feminism.
Let me ask you a question: can the Orthodox or Catholic Church have female deacons?
I don't know. I'm not. Christian.
No. Can they have priests who are female? No. Can they have women who are in positions of leadership? No. They're being told no all the time. They're being told no. You can't be in here. You're not allowed.
So
you're not allowed to be a deacon. You're not allowed to be a priest. You're not allowed to do any of that. They're being told no. And that's why you see the mitigation rate for like Orthodox Christians. Hang on. Orthodox Christians especially. The mitigation is so low, right, that your chance of getting a divorce, if you're getting married inside the church and participating inside the church, it's abysmal. It's abysmally low. And so it's like, yeah, there are organizations which tell women no. And they do it all the time, and they won't let them in any position of leadership, and they do it all the time. And that's not in the future that's going to happen. That's right now. That's happening.
There's Orthodox churches that are pro LGBTQ. Their messaging allowing for divorces in their churches today.
Yeah, they allow for
do you have to say
divorce,
about
but
that?
they allow for divorce under certain extremities, same as Catholics. So if there's
Like what?
abandonment
I'm
of
not happy. I got
no,
bored. I was
not
fucking the pool
those, not
boy.
those. No, there's very few. Adultery, abandonment, addiction. Those are really the only three in which you have any grounds to even petition the church for a divorce. And
Right.
so that helps mitigate in a huge way divorces inside of these churches, because you're right. Most of the time women sue for divorce, it's for irreconcilable differences, not because of abuse, not because of abandonment, not because of cheating. They're mostly not pursuing divorces under those grounds. So
So your
these churches
recommendation
only
is
allow it
everybody
under certain
become devout
circumstances.
Christians and will lower the divorce rates and everything will be fine.
Wait, say that again.
So your recommendation is everybody become devout Christians will
No.
lower the divorce rate to a
Nope.
level that's not risky and everybody will be
No, I'm not.
Then
First
you
of
all
all,
help.
what I'm giving is a descriptor for if marriage is good in the West right now. Not even a prescription yet. Just a
marriage worthwhile
just
for
a
men?
descriptor, and the descriptor is obviously for some groups it's fine, and for other groups, which is groups who are not part of the devout infrastructure of religion, it seems to be really bad
Okay.
for
but
you guys.
you
Really
still
good
have a
for us,
12%
really bad
divorce
for
rate.
you. Huh?
You still have a 12% divorce rate where men will get
That's
destroyed.
really low, dude.
Still
That
not
is
low enough.
really low.
Still
Really
not low
low.
enough.
Huh?
Can I just say,
Still
guys,
not
just
low
quickly, I think that you're kind of talking past each other a little bit in certain ways. So, Andrew, you're coming from the religious aspect. Rich, you're coming from an aspect where your mitigations for these problems rely on you being a little bit more wealthy. So, if you are looking at a guy, for example, who is between 25 and 30, maybe living paycheck to paycheck, doesn't have a deep spiritual life in any way, what do you think is the best thing for that sort of guy to do?
You're asking me?
Or both of
Like
you?
the average Joe?
Yeah, if the average Joe just doesn't have a deep spiritual life, or if the average Joe is living paycheck to paycheck, what do you think is the best for this guy to do?
I mean, that's a difficult one because he's got to enter into a conventional marriage, and that's what most of them try to do. They get them destroyed. Sorry, I'm just looking at the data for the devout Christian. Is that what they're called? Devout Christians?
No. So it depends. Yeah,
Or the
what we
Orthodox?
would be looking at, we'd be looking at denomination and then practice within denomination in order
How
to come
many
up with
different
stats.
denominations are there for Christians?
A lot.
Like how many?
What I would do, maybe the easiest way to parse it out would be to look at Catholics, Orthodox, and then Protestants. There's going to be the kind of major, but it does get into things like
Christian
Lutheranism.
Orthodox, Catholic Orthodox.
Yeah. And you're gonna have massive distinctions in divorce rates between those who practice more and those who practice less.
I'm hoping you're right here, man.
I am right. 100% right. In fact, I can link it to you. I can give it to Jake to link over to you.
I can share it on the screen if you guys want.
Yeah, why don't you put it up on the screen for everybody to see? We can talk about it. We'll chop it up.
Yeah.
Send it on over.
Orthodox
Yeah,
Christians is at 9%.
9%. Yeah.
Yeah, does that sound right?
Yeah. And I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian. 9%.
20 to 25% for Greek Orthodox. Orthodox jurisdictions in the U.S. National average 43.
You can see it's significantly lower across the board.
Okay,
for
so
people who are much
well,
more
it says 9
religious.
to 25% depending on denomination. So it's lower than the 43% quoted national average on your end.
Hang on. No. That's not the right way to parse the data. The correct way to parse the data is to see
Well,
whether
says
or not
range for
increased
Christian denominations,
religion.
9 to 25%.
All we're trying to discover is if increased religiosity is accounting for the diminishment of the divorce rates inside of these various communities. If you are looking at Orthodox Christians who self-ID but are nominal, meaning they're not practicing in the church, they're not doing that, you'll find that the divorce rates increase.
Sure,
but if
I mean,
they
you're still
are
talking about
practicing
a
in the
9 to
church,
25 divorce rate across the denominations. It's like I don't know. Would you jump out of a plane with a parachute that's got a 9 to 25% failure
That's
rate?
an incorrect way to parse it. Well, okay,
Well,
let's say this. Let's do
if
it
you
this
jump
way.
out
Hang
of a
on.
plane and a parachute doesn't open, you're fucked. But if
Oh,
you
okay.
also get married in an environment where 9 to 25% of the time you're going to be fucked, it's basically the same thing.
Here, help me out here. Let's say you had 3 guys on an airplane and 1 parachute, right? The statistic is if you're white, the parachute will open 8% of the time, right? And if you're black, it'll open 2% of the time. And if you're Mexican, it'll open 3% of the time. Which race do you want to be?
Well, they're racist, aren't they? Racist parachutes is what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, which race would you want to be?
You'd want to be the race where the parachute opens.
Right.
That's
So the thing is like when we're parsing it out by group, what we're trying to ask is the question of, is it the case that men in general just have a 40% chance of getting divorced in their first marriage? Hang on.
No, I get your point.
The answer is no, they don't. They don't actually.
I'm about to concede to you, champ.
Okay.
Are you ready for the concession?
Yeah.
Andrew Wilson is right. Orthodox Christians with strong Orthodox Christianity values have a lower divorce rate. That still doesn't deal with the risks that are involved. I still don't think marriage is worthwhile for men, given the circumstances and the environment that they live in today. It's too hostile.
So
and you also have to now become a Orthodox Christian with strong religious values and find a woman that's also Orthodox Christian.
No, there's other denominations which have very, very low rates as well. And you really don't even need any of that. It's not the religion itself which is causing the mitigation, which is why I said I'm asking the question, what's causing the mitigation inside the religion? It's not because they're Orthodox.
Your arguments about the enforcement in the church and the rules and
it's about whether or not there's a support system in place for people's marriage.
Yeah.
That's what it is. When there's a support system in place for marriage, the marriage rates become highly acceptable when it comes to
even
terms
if you
of
use
divorce.
the best rate, 9%, you're basically saying 1 in 10 times you're going to get fucked.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though, right? When we're looking at mitigation strategies, can you give me a situation in which you're not married at 9%, where your outcomes for your kids that you want, right, are going to be preferable over being part of that 9%? Any situation in which you can demonstrate that if men followed that instead, their outcome mitigation would be lower?
No, I concede that Christianity seems to have a better model, but you still have the back end issue, which everybody has to contend with, which is the divorce problem.
If 9 in 10 people who get married,
and then you've also got the data around. Okay, so
that's a pretty good risk. That's pretty good risk assessment. 9 in 10 succeeding is pretty good.
So let's contemplate those that are married, and the model of marriage is going to be living together under the same roof, looking in a way that looks like marriage to the government.
Yeah.
You've got, in accordance to the data collected by the effect of living together on romance, showing that less than 13% of people that live together love each other, and less than 3% have any sort of like state of bliss for one another. I mean, if you take a look around at most people that are together in a long-term relationship, married, living in a way that looks like marriage, cohabitating, whatever it happens to be, the vast majority of them don't really like each other that much. It's very like the probability of success under that model is still quite low. So even though you would say that 9% of the time you're going to get divorced, it would seem the vast majority of people that are living in that way aren't happy. They're actually not in love with one another.
Well, the thing is, though, is that, again, I'm not even sure what the methodology of the study is. And I've got it looked up here, and I'm looking at the method.
Yeah,
and the method is just saying that there's
read it all. I mean, it's a few pages long.
Yeah, well, I have it in front of me, I think. And the method is cross-sectional.
Summarize it. You know, if you just do an AI summary on it, you know, tell me what you think. I
don't ever use AI for summarizations or things like that, because AI provides a bias. And when I look at studies, I try to look at them absent a bias. This one has a meta-analysis which seems
You're
to
the professional. I'll follow your lead on it.
Well, this one has a meta-analysis that seems to disagree. The meta-analysis is of love types and satisfaction in short and long-term relationship.
We can share it if you send it to me as well.
It says this is the one he shared. All right. A recent meta-analysis uh, in 2003 of 33 studies, including both short and long-term relationships, had various measures, and they found substantial correlations of romantic love and relationship satisfaction over long-term versus short-term. And so this is being compared to that meta-analysis, the meta-analysis being the highest standard of scientific rigor. And the meta-analysis seems like it may disagree with this. Now, to your point, I'm not sure because I haven't been able to dive into the literature.
On 6,070 people over 8.84 years.
Mm-hmm.
The data looks, I mean, that's a lot of data, dude.
It is, but it's a lot of data the other way. That's my point. And so what I'm trying to do is parse this out to see if it's correct. But even if I granted it, and I'm just going to do that for a second.
Sure.
Let me just grant it for a moment that you're right. And, you know, partners fall out of love or something like this. Do you agree that marriage can have, like any relationship, long stints of dissatisfaction, and then you can get back to a point where you are satisfied inside the marriage?
It happens. It's pretty rare, though.
I mean, I don't think, like most married couples I've known for a decade or more, they have stints where they have problems in their marriage and then work through those problems over time and get to a place where they become pretty satisfied with things. It's hard because anytime you have two people who spend a lot of time together
over almost 9 years, so they've had plenty of time to have fights and get back together, and that's just how they feel about each other when they have a conversation about it.
Exactly, but that's to my point too. Here is like, ultimately, when we're looking at a family dynamic, the backbone of America, the American family is that, and we need children involved in this. So even if it's the case that materially, I don't know, you love your partner less and less over time, let's say.
Partner?
Yeah, well, that would be
your
your
video,
language.
right? You know how I feel about the word partner?
Well, what else do you call a woman you're not
Husband
married
or
to?
wife. Husband or wife. Partner.
You're not married to. I said you're not married
law
to.
firm.
Yeah, but you're not
We're
married
not
to.
homosexuals. We don't run law firms. So
Yeah, what does
partner
not
or wife.
married to mean to you?
Got it.
Yeah, so not married to, I would say partner, because I don't know what other language to use for
Husband,
that.
wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. Yeah.
Well, they may not be your girlfriend or your husband or your wife.
Okay.
It might just be a person you're fucking who you put up in a condo somewhere to have your kids,
I mean,
right?
for a guy that doesn't like feminism and does so well arguing with feminists, remove the word partner from your vocabulary, my friend. It sounds gay.
Well, I don't know. I think that the idea that when you parse out language, right, that you could have a relationship with a woman.
But I mean, you're
who,
so
yeah,
strong.
can I at least make my point before you interrupt?
Talking about husbands and wives.
Yeah, okay, but we weren't when I was just discussing this.
Men and women here, not partners, not homosexuals.
When I was just discussing this with you, right?
Let's
The
move
reason
on
I
to that.
used the term partner was because we're not necessarily referring to a husband or wife in this instance, or a girlfriend. Could be some chick you have knocked up in a fucking condo under your view, right?
Okay.
So I don't know. What do you call them? Your bitch? I don't know what you call them. What's the better? What, like your bitch? Your bitch in a condo? Hey, I don't fucking know.
At that point, sure.
I don't know what you call them. But anyway, the point is that even if I grant this, the materialism aspect of this is what hurts your argument so much, because ultimately, even if it's the case that the husband and wife, they don't really even like each other that much, they just kind of get along and split the duties or whatever, the environment for the man's child is still the best environment for them, all the way up into completion. And if their parents stay together, they end up with the best outcomes.
Speaking, yes, you are 100% correct. A child needs good access to both parents.
Yeah, well, no, they not just access to both parents, because you can have access to both parents, you still have worse outcomes than if your parents are married and stay together.
Well, you can have worse outcomes too when there's an unhappy marriage that exists.
But usually
I'm sure you know that grew up in a household where like mom and dad stay together, but they hated each other's guts and they were
the outcomes for the children in those instances are still better than the national average for when they split. And the reason is because of strange men coming into the home that leads to more abuse for the child. So even if mom and dad are home and they hate each other, they're usually not beating up little Johnny. But if they go apart from each other, then mommy might be bringing in somebody who does beat up little Johnny.
Right. So what's your plan to enforce Christian orthodoxy values on the world so that we can solve this problem?
Oh, obviously, I'm supposed to solve the problem?
Well, your solution seems to be that if
you don't have any solution. Hang on. Let's just make this clear. You don't have any solution. None.
I've offered you a couple. We can talk about more if you'd like.
No, you haven't offered me any. You just said live like you're divorced. That was the only thing you've offered.
And you remove the risk factor for losing half of your shit and alimony.
But that doesn't help you at all with children.
2/3 of the risk factors like that.
That doesn't help you with the primary thing we're after here, which is children.
You're eliminating 2/3 of the problems if you live
but if unless everything is gravitating towards the idea of procreation and having children, you just end up a genetic dead end. So the priority for most men ultimately is going to be to have offspring. It always has been historically throughout all of history. Men have always gravitated towards this because that's how they live in immortality.
Okay, so
all you're doing is offering a solution for how you can keep more of your stuff.
To sign up for the Christian Orthodox Church and follow those rules so that
nobody's asking them to. How are you going to get a bunch of men to put women up in townhouses and knock them up, dude?
Let's go to your solution. I'm
going to your solution. Well, your solution is no solution.
All right, guys, we're getting more into the prescriptive claims here. We've gone a little bit from the descriptive to the prescriptive.
Yeah,
here,
so let's talk about that solution.
Let's just do it. Both of you guys can give your solution.
I'll tell you what. I give one, and you give one.
All right.
Yeah, start with you, Andrew. Let's go.
Yeah. So prescriptively, I would say that the groundswell movement needs to be in adjusting states first. That's something we do have control over, and churches have a massive impact on states. So that would be a movement towards a solution. One state you brought up like this is Kentucky, but there's other ones that have pretty good marriage laws, and there's other ones that, and we can push in the idea of no fault in many of these states as well.
So I just want to jot these down. So pass legislation in alignment with Christian values.
Yeah, but you're asking me what ought we do now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so pass legislation that's aligned with Christian values. Okay. Why don't we deal with that first? So how do you do that?
The same way we did it with Roe v. Wade.
Well, Roe v. Wade. Okay, so there's one. You got a lot of lines.
That's a big one.
But I mean, you have a lot of lines in the sand to move, and you still have women screaming like harpies to this day over that.
Yeah, but guess what? They had an opportunity.
Still crying to murder babies for fun.
Women had an opportunity to give some sort of reform on that with the election of Donald Trump, and that was what Kamala Harris was running on. Was that she was going to make sure that they had an enshrined right to choose. And that was a female who was running, and she still lost to Trump. So on the abortion front, clearly progress is being made by the social right and the various churches. My evidence of this is that we were able to get Roe v. Wade overturned, and instantly states were beginning, because of the Christian right, to pass legislation abolishing it. So don't tell me the lines can't be moved. I was told a few years ago by a bunch of red pillars on a panel that you could never get Roe v. Wade overturned. And they laughed at me when I said, well, it looks pretty good for us. They laughed at me. And guess what? I went back on the panel and I said, well, who's laughing now, bitch? Because I was right.
Okay. So what other legislation would you have to pass to get the country more aligned with Christianity?
Oh, well, there would have to be a lot.
The Roe v. Wade. Sure. I agree with you. Abortion is bad. Women love murdering babies. They seem to.
Yeah. The other thing that you could do is you could reinstitute that secular marriage is no longer dogmatically enforced by the state, but rather that marriage is enforced by the church.
That's a big ask, dude.
No, it's not a big ask.
You're going to steal a lot of power away from women. How do you think they're going to give that up?
Well, actually, feminists, interestingly enough, are the pathway to victory there.
Okay, explain.
Well, feminists operate under the mindset of I don't need no man. And under the various forms of consistency of fourth wave feminism, they have been actually pushing for the abolishment of state institutionalized marriage for some time. What they would prefer would be that the government was out of it altogether, because they are anti-natalists through and through. And so they actually think that abolishing marriage, is the best way of getting rid of the patriarchal structure of men. And in many ways are actually correct. It's just that it doesn't work if you're still governing that through religiosity. And so that's the frame where they're going to end up failing. But though they may fail, or they may end up succeeding on the secular end.
I'm not hearing a way that you're going to convince women to give up their legal right to half of a man's shit, free alimony payments in some cases for the rest of their life, and child support payments that
you don't need to convince them. We didn't convince them of Roe v. Wade. We just passed the shit.
Why would they agree to that?
We don't need them to. They didn't have to agree to Roe v. Wade. We passed it anyway. What
Okay,
you do
well-
is you make federal law, right? When you use federal law and
Who
use the
passes
Supreme
the law? Who
Court
passes
for
the
the
law?
reinterpretation. Well, in
Who
this
passes
case,
the
we
law?
would just
Women, right?
stop, bro. In this case, we would just need the Supreme Court to reinterpret a couple of amendments. That's it.
And isn't the Supreme Court obsessed with blocking everything that Trump does?
No, in fact, not at all. It's the opposite. The Supreme Court rules in his favor all the time. And they did in Roe v. Wade as well. So you wouldn't need, you can't, there is legislative solutions here, and there always has been.
I mean, clearly modifying the laws is the path to victory on this. But I don't see a environment next month, next year, in the years to come, where women in positions of power, which they hold to a significant degree in politics, and they're all feminists, are going to agree to legislation that's going to remove all the gifts that women have been given.
Yeah,
through
I don't
family law.
understand this idea is so bizarre to me. Politics is about power blocks. It's not about agreement. I don't give a fuck if they agree. I only give a fuck if we got a power block that can institute the
And
legislation that I want, like they did with Roe v. Wade.
Okay, and who passes these laws? Human beings, yeah?
Of course.
And there's women and simps in politics. So
Sure, but it doesn't matter if they don't have a big enough power block for enforcement. It doesn't matter. And what we've been seeing shift on the ground for conservative politics.
there's sufficient women in politics and policy making that they are not going to allow this sort of thing to pass.
Bullshit. Women are voting how their husbands vote.
No,
and
they
guess
don't.
what? Yes, they do. Then why? Okay. Yes, they do. Why?
No, they
Tell me
don't.
something. Why did Trump get more of the woman vote then? White
They-
woman vote. Why?
I mean, maybe in Christian Orthodox households.
No. In the United States, they're voting how their husbands vote. That's why Trump got so much of the female vote, the white female vote.
And that's why social media was peppered with women divorcing their husbands and encouraging other women to leave their spouses over votes.
Sure,
and
of
political
course. Yeah, that's the liberal mind virus, the progressive feminist mind virus.
Okay. So,
But the thing is like that doesn't matter if we have the necessary power block. We can
Right.
pass whatever the fuck we want, and that's that.
which isn't happening.
It has been happening. You just noted that Kentucky changed laws on the local level. You've noted that the Supreme Court has moved the laws over on Roe v. Wade.
Andrew,
You've
that's a
noted-
very surface level change. That's like changing the speed limit from 110 to 111. That's a very minor change.
Oh, you're right.
talking about
We'll
a
just go
massive-
ahead and
You're
yeah,
talking
you're
about
right.
a massive shift that's
Uh-huh.
gonna completely change the
No,
balance.
it's
of
gradual.
power
Everything in politics is a
divorce
gradual shift.
and rob women of all the upper hand.
Okay, here. I'll tell you what. So I gave a legislative solution, showed that there's groundwork for it, proved that the right wing's been moving those goals. Your turn. What's your solution, Rich?
My solution is a little bit different. I'm more of a enjoy the decline guy and
So no
understand the
solution.
rules, understand the rules and navigate your life accordingly. I mean, you operate in an ought to sort of minds. It's like the state ought to do this. And I agree with you. The state ought to do the right thing. Like the state should apply reasonable legislation that isn't hostile towards father and men. The state ought to apply laws and legislation that encourage family formation and lots of children from the domestic population rather than letting retards walk across the border and get free shit. I fucking agree with you. But it doesn't. So my stance is let's take a look at the environment. Let's understand the rules. Let's plot a map. Here's all the landmines.
You're not giving me a
on them,
solution.
And walk around them.
What's the solution?
I just told you. You
That's
plot the
not
danger
telling
on
me.
the map and
Okay.
you walk
Well,
around
my
them. You
solution
read my
is
book. I mean,
my
you said that you
solution
read
is
some of
take
my
a look
books,
at the
and you must have
legislative
heard some of
map.
the stuff that
Guys,
talked
I
about,
think
but
think
do
it's
offer
the
prescriptions.
the
That's not-
solution.
that's
you're-
not a
Andrew,
prescription.
hold on a second. I think you're offering the solution, Rich, on the individual level, whereas Andrew,
Correct.
you're more thinking on the societal level.
Well,
Rich,
okay,
you're
what-
not trying to
what's
offer
the
a solution on the
solution, though?
societal level.
What is it? He didn't actually give us one.
Yeah, I just
On
offered
the
you-
individual level, rather
No,
than
he
the
just
Yes,
said,
on
societal.
the
look at the
individual
environment
level.
and
The
do stuff.
individual it takes a sovereign approach to their life. They take ownership for their shit, and they structure their life in such a way that benefits their goals, values, and the direction that they want to head.
What does that look like though for the individual?
It really. So I don't know. Give me a scenario. Like what
You're
are we
23 years old. You want to have a family. What do you do?
if you're 23 years old and want to have a family, living where?
I don't know. You live in Michigan.
Okay. If you want to do it the conventional way, like the Andrew Wilson way, then my recommendation would be move to a state that doesn't hate fathers where there's default 50-50 custody. Beyond that,
Should they get married?
they're probably going to get married.
Should
They're probably
they?
going to get married.
Should they?
Should they? No. But she's probably
No.
going to force it on him, and he's probably going to go with it. So my recommendation, and I get this a lot, dude. Like I get this conversation at me a lot from guys.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this many a times. I'm a professional, so follow me through on this. Okay. You move to a state that doesn't hate fathers, which most guys won't do from the get-go. You know how many people I've seen follow that, just that one step alone, and minimize the risk?
Almost none, probably.
Exactly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Because people are used to legislative blocks, and that's how they usually affect change.
And I mean, like one of the
But
problems
the thing
with that
is,
too
is like I have the same problem with people on the individual level. I talk to thousands of them too. I'm also a pro at what I do. But the thing is here, Rich, is like I'm looking at this.
I mean,
all
you're
you're
saying
saying.
answer the question.
No.
trying to
Hang
answer
on.
it,
I'm
Dave,
just
keep
telling you,
interrupting.
you're offering the same thing I'm offering. So I say to you, on an individual level, marriage can be good for you based on the group that you're. Hang on, based on the group that you're
me
a
a
part of.
specific question. You didn't let me answer you.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I finish?
Sure.
Thank you. My recommendation would be move to a state that doesn't hate fathers, and that's a very small percentage of, let's say, the North American landmass. You'd have to move the fuck out of Canada, and in the United States, you'd have to move to a state that doesn't hate fathers. That's a goalpost that could potentially move later on down the line. 5 years, 10 years, legislative changes could be implemented that could make that place hostile again. Take note of it. You'd also want to find a chick that's worth vetting, right? There's not a lot of marriageable type women. I think you would agree. I mean, you spend a lot of time talking to bimbos and OnlyFans whores on dating podcasts.
Spend some time doing it.
You've had a lot of conversations with the women out there. I think
I've had a lot of conversations with mostly the women I talk to are not those though.
Okay, but would you agree that the vast majority of women are not marriageable type of material?
No.
With all of these retards that you've talked to on whatever and all these shows that you've done.
The problem is that I talk to an equal amount of men who are fucking retards too.
I agree with you. But
so the problem is
well,
like, you know what? When I think of equally yoked, like ugly people end up with ugly people and stupid people end up with stupid people.
Right.
That's the way of the world, man.
You're right. So you do agree that there's a lot of retarded women that are not marriageable type of material.
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Okay. And then you've also got an equal amount of retarded men that don't know how to manage women, right?
It's less equal there, the distribution. There's less retarded men than there are women, in my view.
Okay, let's go with that.
Mm-hmm.
You find a guy that's not retarded that follows the advice to move to a state that doesn't hate fathers, and he finds a gal, then he starts vetting her, and she's not one of these retarded women. I ran a podcast for a year called Ladies Night, and we had thousands of chicks on this thing. I noticed a distinct pattern, and they were randoms. They weren't like, let's find bimbos and put them on the show and embarrass them. Like, they were complete randoms from all around the world.
Same as whatever.
Life. Pardon?
Same as whatever. All random chicks from all different walks of life.
No, but they're from all over the world. Like the difference between
same with whatever
table type of podcast. So you get the girls in Santa Barbara, you get the girls that are in the Miami.
No. They were all from all over the world. They fly from Russia and Cuba, South America, all over the fucking place.
They fall into three distinct categories, and the vast majority of them are useless. They're not marriageable type of material. They spend their entire time trying to justify why they've complicated their life and dismiss a lot of the bad choices they've made. And they try to manage a reputation to hold out publicly that they're good people.
Yeah.
Which
female accountability.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you can eliminate like 90% of the chicks that way. There's a very small contingent after you get to the older ones, which come to a realization. At some point, women hit the wall twice. They hit the wall in their early 20s when their looks go on a decline, and they hit it a second time, usually in their late 30s, early 40s or something like that, where they come to the realization they have to accept that their value has declined and they have to start making concessions. But what man wants to marry a 43-year-old woman and have children with her? It's not an intelligent move. So you have to dismiss those ones. There's a very small contingent, I would say less than 3 or 4% of the women out there on the sexual marketplace that would be worthy of wife stock. And this man would then have to vet her for 2 years straight, minimum, to see what she's made of. Spend some time with her, meet her family, see what she does when you get sick, travel. Does she freak out when the luggage gets lost and have a hissy fit and spaz out on the fucking airline attendant? Or does she, act in a calm, natural way and says, Andrew, let's just go get some bathing suits. It's hot. We don't need that luggage. They'll find it when they find it.
Okay.
Spending some time figuring out what she's made of. And then they can go through the process if they want to get married and then have their children, sort of thing. But the problem still exists that these women, if this guy doesn't maintain a good frame in the relationship, these women can change their opinion of them. The other thing that happens with time, and we saw this with Esther Perel's data, you know who she is?
No.
Yeah. No?
No.
Esther Perel?
Yeah. No.
Okay, you should look it up. She's got a really good TED Talk. With women, their interest in men, it drops like a hockey stick over time. Men, it's a lot slower. Okay, but with women, with proximity and familiarity and being around the guy a lot, their interest in him drops dramatically, which I think is why you run into a lot of these problems, with this data that shows that less than 12% of people are in a state of love after almost 9 years, and less than 3% are in a state of bliss. So you still have the management issue of that long-term relationship. There's a lot of environmental factors that are very, very difficult to manage. And that's why my approach is more along the lines of structure your life in an intelligent way and live it to your account the way that you want.
Yeah. Well, I understand, but
you can still have kids do all this. You can
your
still
own
love a woman, and
you haven't actually explained how. Even if it's the case that they vet these women under your view, and you go move to a state where they're good to fathers,
right. And that's why
hang
I
on. Just let you go for a while, Rich.
Let Andrew respond.
Let me respond. Under your view, you have not eliminated the risk, and your whole attack of what it is that I propose. Hang on. Exactly. Right. It manages risk. So your whole attack on my view was, but that doesn't eliminate all the risk. 9% still pretty high. It's like, well, wait a second. You're not eliminating the risk either. You're only doing the same thing I'm doing, which is risk management, except when I look at it and show people, hang on, Rich, I didn't cut you off. I let you go. Give me a second. Okay. Under your view, what you just outlined to them, even if they follow that to a letter, you've not eliminated the risk. And your criticism of me was, well, wait a second, Andrew, you haven't eliminated the risk. It's like, it's the same thing. You have the same view as me, except the distinction is the secularists who follow your view are almost always in that average. They're almost always next to that national average when it comes to divorce rates. But the people who follow my view are way under that average. They're only around 9-10%. Hang on, Rich, let me finish my point. They're only around 9-10% in many cases. In some cases, a little higher, 17-18%. But that's still really low in comparison to the national average for these things.
And what percentage of those people are happy still?
You have not. Well, you haven't demonstrated any of these people would be happy with this arrangement. Show me. You can't. You just assume it. You can't.
No,
show
I'm not
me.
assuming it. No, I'm not assuming it.
Because, well, then show me.
Well, when you follow the data around long-term relationships and living together, it's not very good. There's a lot of people that live together that might be Christian Orthodox that fall into your 9 or 10% category, whatever it happens to be, that are living together. They're in shitty marriages.
Wait a second. Hang on. I want to clarify something.
Of the people that are paying for Sophia Rain's OnlyFans are Christian men.
Sure.
But
right? Of course.
But these guys are jerking off to porn and their wives are not
paying. Yeah, so are secularist men. So what? The thing is, though,
because that's what the rules say. But
hang on. I want the delineation here. Are you saying that if you date the same woman and you're not cohabitating with her and you're not married to her, that somehow you're going to love her more?
Yes.
Okay. Can you demonstrate that?
You have some distance.
Yeah. Can you demonstrate that?
You have some distance between you and her. Yeah. Because you're not.
Okay. Well, with what? What data are you appealing to for that?
Sorry?
What data are you appealing to for that?
Well, I mean, you can use the data from the Aaron and Acevedo one.
Okay. And where in the
couples that are living together?
Yeah, but that doesn't, hang on, that them demonstrating that couples living together may fall out of love doesn't demonstrate that couples who are dating long-term don't also do so. I would need the actual data for that.
Well, look, Andrew, I mean, there's lots of data out there. Okay. And there's lots of data that's just bullshit data, like we talked about earlier. But from the perspective
hang on, I need a clarification here. Are you saying that there's no actual data that shows that just because you're dating a person long term, you don't fall out of love with them? You're just assuming that, right?
Well, I don't think that we have data on this stuff.
Yeah. So the thing is like you can't demonstrate for me that's even true.
Yes, I can, because when men and women live together, the chances and the probabilities of them actually having a good experience living together is lower than when you live separately. You can love a woman and not live with her, believe it or not, Andrew.
Of course, and nobody said that you couldn't. But what you failed to demonstrate is whether or not, if you're dating the same woman for the same amount of time, that you're less likely to fall out of love with her because you don't live with her. That's not, the data doesn't support that. You're assuming it. Hang on, baking it into your worldview as an assumption that this is somehow better as a risk mitigation factor. When I'm showing a risk mitigation factor that is working descriptively right this second, that has data to support it, how's that not better?
When you live with a woman, you're exposed to family law. When you live in a way that looks like marriage with a woman, you're exposed to family law. One of the other downsides to that is it has an effect on romantic love. We've seen the data on that. It has a negative consequence. There's a direct negative consequence in living together in a way that looks like marriage.
Yeah, but that doesn't demonstrate that you not living together, but just dating the same woman for years actually doesn't have the same negative connotation. You can't demonstrate that. You just assume it.
Okay, so we'll just agree to disagree on that one. Yeah,
we can't agree to disagree. I need to know, is that an assumption or do you have data to back it up?
You've got the data from the Aaron Acevedo study.
Can you show me in that data where it shows that dating long-term makes you love a person more?
Let me finish, because you have a habit of running people over, man.
I just want to make sure we get to the actual point.
I'd like to, but you keep interrupting me.
Go ahead.
When you live together, there's a clear negative effect on romance. There's also the application of family law when you live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. Smart men don't get married. They don't live that way.
That is not a demonstration at all, by any scientific means whatsoever, that you dating a woman long-term and not cohabitating with her leads to more love. That does not demonstrate that. It only demonstrates that if it's the case that you do live with a woman, it leads to less love. That's it. That's the only demonstration you've made. That's not an agree to disagree. Hang on. That's not an agree to disagree. That's
that I'm making, Andrew.
Yeah.
Let me finish. The argument that I'm making is when you live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, family law is going to apply to your life in most cases, with some rare exceptions.
The second you add children to the plate, family law is going to apply anyway. And so the thing is, what's so funny about this is my question is it good for Western men who want to have kids?
With respects to child support, not with alimony, not with division of assets.
But that's material me again. What about kids? You're a prodigy.
It solves 2/3 of men's problem. That's what
it doesn't. It doesn't solve 2/3 of the. How does it help the kids, which is the primary edict of the man?
Can we just agree that it resolves 2/3 of the problem?
No, because it doesn't. What you're doing.
If you don't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, you don't have to pay alimony, and you don't fucking lose.
Well, first of all, how many men get taken to court for alimony? How many men get taken to court for alimony?
How many men get taken? Anybody that gets divorced that's living in a way that looks like marriage to the government will probably pay alimony.
That's nonsense. Demonstrate it.
I'm sorry?
Show me the numbers of men who actually are ordered to pay alimony.
97% of alimony flows from men to women.
That's not what I asked. I asked how many men actually end up having to pay alimony out of the percentage of men who are divorced.
Held by law, where there's
That's not what I asked. What I asked is how many men of the percentage of divorced men have to pay alimony.
You want me to look it up and give you the number?
Yeah.
And then after this, guys, we're getting a bit short on time. So I would actually enjoy it if you guys could steelman each other's positions to the best of your ability as to why it is worthy or unworthy for men to get married, and then to just level your biggest critique at that position. Just so everybody understands that.
What's the, hang on, I want to get the percentage though of how many men have to do this.
What percentage of men pay alimony to their wives is the prompt here?
No, how many?
Alimony is awarded to 10% of divorces, down from 25% in 1960. This figure comes from resources like Reuters. Among those who receive alimony, 3% are men, 97% are women.
So it's when you say it's one of the biggest problems, it's not really one of the biggest problems.
So roughly 9 to 10% of all divorces result in a man paying alimony to his ex-wife. I would argue that exists today because more women are making more money than at any other time in history. But I think in the past, men were compelled to pay alimony a lot more than they do today.
That's because of coverture laws.
What's that?
That's because of coverture laws. Approximately 3% of alimony recipients in the United States are men. I agree with that. The thing is, though, is that when you say that this is a large problem, an overbearing problem in divorce, it's actually not. It's one of the lesser problems men have to deal with in divorce. No, it's actually the primary problem they have to deal with is the two. which
It's
would
still a
be
serious
it would
que-
be
it's-
the division of assets, and then child support. Those are the two
So,
major
division
issues
of
that most
assets-
men are going to have to deal with.
Okay, so let's just say that you're right. Okay, it's whatever. It's a small percentage of men that have to pay alimony.
Mhm.
You eliminate half of your problems instead of 2/3 of your problems by living that way.
But you're not.
Would you agree
Again,
that that's better?
no. Well, here, let me explain my
Eliminating
right.
half of your problems is not
It's
better.
not
than,
eliminating half of your problems, and let me
you are,
explain
because you
why.
don't have to divide your assets.
You're only living in the material me. For one, even if I granted your case, it would only be.
Andrew, I'll give you the alimony argument, even though there's women that
Dude,
plan
can I
to get
respond?
alimony.
Can I
Yeah, let him
respond?
respond why
Let me
it's
respond to
not half.
what it
years
is
to
that
get
you just
lifetime
said. Let me
alimony,
respond.
even though that happens routinely.
He's not going to.
And chicks do that all the
Rich,
time.
Rich, we have to let Andrew respond
give
as
you
to
that.
why it's not.
Let me respond here, man. Let me explain to you. Okay. Even under your view, if we eliminate the alimony, right? You say, oh, it eliminates half of your problem. It's like, no, it doesn't. You're still at the mercy of child support, which is what? That's the other half, right?
Nope.
So it only eliminate 1/3 of the problems. That's one. But two, even under your view, but two, the second issue that you have here is, what about for Western man kid get good outcome? How does this
I
help?
know your whole thing
It
is
doesn't
about
help
the
any
good
of those
outcome the
problems.
kids. I got it. But let's just agree that if you don't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, you don't have to deal with dividing your assets.
Yeah, but that's not the way you're framing this. You're framing issues as being individual.
Why can't you just answer the question.
I
dude?
am. No.
You're not.
The answer is no. That's not the case, because what you're doing is you're leaving a frame up that says the
Child
only
support
thing
is
that
separate
matters.
from
The
dividing
only
assets.
thing.
You
Hang on,
understand
bro.
that, right?
No, the frame's wrong. The only
No, the
thing you're
frame is
saying here,
accurate.
dude, you gotta
Just
let me
because you say
respond.
it's wrong doesn't mean it's wrong, dude.
Okay, well, if I can't give an
All right.
explanation, then that's the case.
Just because you say
All
That's
right,
true.
guys,
You won't
guys,
let me
it's hard when
explain.
you're both speaking. So, Andrew, you just give the frame and as to why it's wrong, and then Rich, you respond straight after.
It's really simple, right? Everything here is from the materialistic me. It doesn't answer to the children, which are the primary edict from his.
have to do with
See what I
division.
mean? He won't even let me explain.
Rich, wait. Just let him.
Won't even let me
him
explain.
respond. Let him
So
respond.
I'm going to try this again, right?
Go ahead.
If it's all from the issuance of the materialistic me, right? Oh, what do I get? My shit, my stuff, my things, right? I think that it leaves out the most critical aspect of this conversation, which is that the thing that the Western man values above all other things is their children. And so the question is, how does this solve the issues for their children? It does not. All you're doing is saying it solves certain material issues. Well, here's the thing. You could just be a Coomer degenerate, and that would solve half of your issues on this front too. You could just be a Coomer degenerate. And it would do the exact same thing. Like, what's the difference? Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll speak now that you're done. Your whole thing relies on, but the children. The children have nothing to do with division of assets. Child support is separate. If you do not live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, you don't lose half your shit.
How does that help with the outcomes of your children?
The child support still goes to the kids.
That's
Child support
it?
is a lot more than what the needs of the children are.
You paying child support to the children's already a failure of the relationship, Rich.
Okay.
That's already a failure, which leads to worse outcomes for the kids.
You're not as good as you say you are, man. Like, you're good, but you're not as good as you like. I can't believe that we're at this point, man.
Your incredulity.
The child support
meaningless
looks
to
after
me.
the children. It's far more than what children need. She doesn't need half your shit.
They
You
need their
can protect
daddy
half
and their
your
mommy
shit.
in the
If a
house
man's
for
worth
good
$10
outcomes.
million, she should take $5 million for the children when she's already.
Of course
getting
not.
child
Who made
support?
that claim?
That's what you're saying.
No, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. That's
Oh
just a
my.
total red herring nonsense burger. What I'm saying to you is that the outcome for the
Okay,
children is based
Can we
on
move on from
mommy.
this point?
It's
We're not
based
gonna
on
resolve
mommy
it. We're
and
just gonna agree
daddy.
to disagree on it.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Every time I try to give an explanation to the
You're not
descriptor, you
making
just
any
cut
sense, man.
in.
Blah,
You just
blah,
cut
blah,
in.
blah.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, here's the thing is like, you're not even contending with the argument that I'm making. The argument that I'm making is that men have,
Yes, I agree the children
men-
are important.
yes. So then their best outcomes is when they have a mommy daddy home. If they don't have mommy daddy home and it's a split home, that's when you
You're
get the
running
worst
around in
outcomes.
circles here.
The
You're
child
running around
support
in
is not what's relevant here.
You're running around in circles. She doesn't deserve half of a man's shit. Guys worth
Who
$10
said she
million.
did?
Why did she deserve $5
Oh
million?
my God. Who the fuck said
All
she did?
right. Let's move this
What are
on,
you-
guys.
what are
Let's
you
move
doing
this
back
on.
to
The children. What
Am I
about the
speaking
move on.
Spanish here?
The outcomes of the children.
The outcomes of the children are better when the
Nice.
mommy and daddy stay together. Not that if they get divorced, she gets half your
Are
shit.
you
What-
pro
what?
father? Like, are you pro men? Like, what's your angle here, dude?
I'm explaining and expressing that if men want to have families and children, they want the best outcomes for their children.
Yeah.
The best outcomes that you're going to have for your
And the
children
child
are
support
going
takes
to.
care of that.
All right,
See
all
what
right,
I
guys.
mean? Won't even let me explain.
We can't do it if every time you speak there's an interruption. It's hard to get points
All right,
across.
so let's go to the next point because we're
Yeah, all
clearly
right.
not
Well,
gonna
let's do
on
the
this
steel
one.
man then because we're running out of time. So, why don't you guys
Yeah,
just do
I
that?
can
All right.
steel man it first.
All right,
right?
sweet. So, Andrew, you
yeah.
can steel man and then level the critique at the steel man.
Yeah, so the steel man's pretty simple from Rich's perspective. What he's saying is that and I agree with a lot of this, right? He's saying, look, if you enter into a covenant with the state under state marriage, right, it puts you at legal binding risk with the state. And the outcomes for you as a man are probably going to be bad if you're part of this 40% who gets divorced. And so he's offering a mitigating solution for where you can try to mitigate those issues by solving some of these material problems for men. That's his position. Am I wrong about that, Rich?
You're correct.
Okay, then I've steelmanned your position. Can you actually steelman mine?
You would like people to become Christian Orthodox,
No.
and you'd like to see legislation passed.
Nope.
I'm not finished.
You already got it wrong.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
You think, sorry, let me rephrase it for you. You think Christian orthodoxy is a solution
Nope.
to the prompt, is marriage worthwhile for men? You can bang your head on the microphone, but that's the prompt. Is marriage worthwhile for men? You think that Christian orthodoxy offers a better solution than secular solutions. I understand your point.
That's not my point.
I understand your point. No, I do.
But that's not the point.
Would you like to carry on with your point?
Yeah, the point is to say what are the things within the groupings of religiosity which is leading to the mitigation and divorce, and what those things are is structure around marriage for support systems. That seems to be what mitigates all these various different divorce statistics between groups, and that those should be emulated. And if you emulate those, it's going to lead to less divorce, thus leading to the thing that Western men, I think, care about the most, which is the outcomes of their children. We want the best outcomes for the children, and the best outcomes for the children is going to be mommy, daddy, loving relationship, married, creates best outcome for kids. That's the whole position.
And had I said all of that, you would have said something else.
No, I
And
wouldn't
disagreed
have.
with it.
That's why I was so meticulous about taking notes about everything you said, so that when I steel manned it, you would have to agree that I understood your position.
You know, keep in mind here, Andrew, I'm up against the champ, and this is my first time doing a debate.
I'm not
So
upset with you, man. I don't take any of this personally. Debates are designed for us to clash in worldviews. Sometimes it's gonna get gritty. We're gonna have a heated argument. Men can do that and walk away friends. I don't hold any bad will against you at all.
I'm not suggesting that you do.
Yeah, my job is here to represent my worldview the best way I possibly can. That's your job as well.
Yeah, and it's a wrong worldview.
I think the same thing in the opposite direction.
Dude, I wish it was right. Like, I wish that your solution would potentially solve things, but
I wish you had a solution.
Too much on a ought to set of sequences and events to happen, which, in my opinion, Andrew, isn't the way that men should navigate their life. And I think the vast majority of people that watch this and know these facts recognize that this shit is way too hostile for men. And if
So just live like you're divorced.
If anything's going to change, we need to start saying no to women a fuck ton more and start to see some forward movement.
I think
If
you guys
only-
agree on that
If
point.
only we had institutional organizations that are part of the very fabric of America that have been saying no to women since we founded the nation. Oh, wait.
And how
we
do we end
do
up in
have
the
those
fucked up
institutions.
situation that we're in today? Because since they founded the nation, the fabric of society has been tearing itself apart.
Yeah,
It's
there's
the
been a bunch of
immigration that
communist
was started
infiltration
fucking
and
level.
feminist and
You guys
progressive
get
values.
destroyed and often themselves after the divorce process, being alienated from their own children.
Mhm.
And stepdads are spending more time with the kids than these guys are.
I agree. Look,
Why
I
do
think
we
that all
have
of these
to
are
shit?
issues. I think all of these are serious problems. But
They're
when we talk about the
very serious
descriptive,
problems.
when we talk about the descriptive is though,
And I
I'm
realize
talking
that
about
my
what
solution,
is the
Andrew,
case.
and I
There's no
realize that
solution.
my solution doesn't get us any closer to improving the population problems that you often talk about. But
Well,
it's
no,
the
I don't
only
even think your
thing-
solution
the
helps men
only
right now.
rational thing, the only real thing that guys can do to navigate the slippery slope. Because until the churches start ought to doing the things that you recommended and the government passes legislation that follows your recommendations, which I fully agree with and fully support, and I really wish you the utmost in success in that. Nothing's going to change, dude.
But
And you
hey,
have to
listen.
recognize the landscape.
Can you just
and
answer me a
navigate
question?
accordingly.
Yeah, answer me one question. If
Sure.
churches aren't currently doing that right now, then why is the divorce rate of the people who are inside of them so fucking low, dude? Why?
You're talking about a difference that doesn't cut it for me. It
Yeah,
doesn't cut
a
it for me.
difference of
And I
25 or
have
30% doesn't cut
enough
it for you.
stories, Andrew. I have enough stories of men in Christian, Catholic, Orthodox, Jewish, whatever fucking religion you want to pick, that have been destroyed by women because family law has fucked them over. And I don't like hearing these stories. I don't like seeing men
I
offing
hate it.
themselves
Look,
over
I
this.
hate it too.
Religion
I don't
is
like
not
listening
the
to it.
solution. It doesn't resolve it. It
The
doesn't
problem-
resolve
the problem is you
problem
can't-
family law. The
What's
problem
the
is
accounting
legislation.
for why the divorce rates are so much lower in these traditional churches if it's the case that they've all been infiltrated, destroyed by feminism? What is the case for
they're
that?
better, Andrew. Is that what you want me to say?
I want to know what you actually think. What?
Because they're better. That's what you want me to say. You want me to say
I just
the
want you to
Christian
give an
Orthodox
accounting
Church is
for
the
it.
best. You win.
I just
And then
want you
after
to give
this,
an
we're going to get
accounting
into
for it,
super
that's all.
chats, guys.
I mean,
Last
if you
bit,
want
then
to
we'll
get
get into
into
super
the
chats.
religion that wins, you're talking about Hindus because they have the lowest divorce rate. So why aren't we arguing for people to all become Hindus then?
But that's my whole point. I'm not arguing for you to become an Orthodox or a Catholic. I'm arguing that the structures which allow for Hindus to have such a lower divorce rate is something that which we should begin adopting for everybody.
Yeah, now
That's the argument.
Now you're talking about adopting cultural values on top of religious values.
No, just the structure of the support network. People used to have that.
I am with you, man. Like I am in agreement. It is a better structure.
Yeah.
But it's not a perfect structure and it doesn't work as a perfect structure. It's like Swiss cheese. You know what I'm saying? It's got too many holes.
Well, let me ask you this. This is a great saying. I want to ask you what you think about it.
Sure.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
But is it good? Is it really good?
11% real good. 11% real good.
1 in 10 is real bad.
No. See what I mean? It's like, wait a second.
You're basically
9 out of
saying
10.
roll the dice
Hang
and
on.
play the lottery.
If
and
I
hope
came
that
to
win.
you, if I
But there's
came
too
to
many
you with a
problems with
stock,
the churches
All right,
these
we got to
days.
see why it's not
if
bad.
I came to
Andrew,
you with
why
a
is it not
stock
bad?
and 9 out of 10 times it's going to make you money, wouldn't you invest in it?
The conversations we had about marital happiness, we can go back to them if you'd like to rewind and talk about that data. The number of people that live together and they're not happy, they're not having sex, they're not in love. They just stay together because it's enforced on them by the religion.
But they have children, and they want good outcomes for them.
Oh my God, they have children. So that
Yeah.
solves everything.
They want to have good outcomes for their kids, bro.
Do they have good
Yes.
outcomes?
According to every statistical data point that I can cite, the heavily religious who get married have the best overall outcomes, least amount of mental illness, least amount of homelessness, least amount of everything than any other demographic in the US.
Here's where I will concede victory to you, Andrew. If you can produce, so let's do this. Why don't we go to the Forbes list of billionaires and find out what their religion is, how they grew up in a two-parent household or not? Why don't we take a look at it from that angle?
What would that have to do with anything?
Well, if you want to talk about success, that's the ultimate measurement of success.
No, money is not the ultimate measurement of success.
No, the creation of wealth is a store of value. That's what it is. The
But
more
that's not
value you
that
create, the more.
success is an arbitrary metric which is dependent upon goals.
Okay, so how would you define success?
As a person who is steadily moving towards a worthy goal.
A worthy goal could be playing video games for 18 hours straight.
It's a subjective metric for what we consider success to be. There's
Right,
no
that's
way
why
for
I'm
you to
trying to
hang on.
use something
There's no
reasonable
way
here,
for you to
like-
frame that any other way. There are men who are heavily successful who are very poor, but they're very successful in what they do. I'll give you a great example of this.
That looks that wants.
Oh
to
yeah,
say
have you ever
things
heard
like
of Nikola?
poor guys
Have
like-
you ever heard of Tesla? Nikola Tesla?
Yes.
Yeah, did he die a very poor man, and was he poor the entire time in his life?
A lot of people stole shit from him.
Yeah, so the thing is like, oh, I guess he wasn't a success then, because he was poor.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. He was one of the greatest success stories of ever.
How is Nikolai Tesla a success
Because
story? If
he said
people
that he was
robbed him
moving
of his ideas and he
because
didn't get credit for them?
because he
They
did get
made
credit
money.
for him. He did eventually get credit for him. The thing is he was moving towards a worthy goal.
Okay,
And
but
for
it's still a
him, that
failure.
worthy
From
goal,
an individual perspective for Nikolai.
yeah,
Tesla,
it
it's
can
a
only
failure.
be individualized.
And the
He's a
legacy
failure.
as well,
Like,
I guess.
you'd agree with
the
that.
legacy.
What?
He failed.
No, he didn't fail.
He did.
How?
All these people stole his ideas and made the money off it. They got the recognition.
So if you make $1 million and somebody steals it, you're a failure.
Oh my God.
That's the entailment of your logic. It's silly.
Do you ever agree with anybody that you debate?
No, I do all the time. I conceded tons of things in my opening statement to your worldview. I conceded almost everything in your worldview except a couple of core issues, which we've been arguing over.
Okay, so let's go to the super chats, Jake, and all the other wrap up stuff, the final questions.
Yeah, let's do it. Yep, that'll be good. All right, Rach Wilson says, how would Rich address data collected by USDHHS over the last 50 years showing that children in the separated living situation he described her at the same risk for all negative outcomes, depression, abuse, addiction, as children of divorce?
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand. Like Rachel Wilson's got multiple kids from multiple men, and she would put them in the same environment. What is that supposed to mean?
What? Let me ask you a question. What does that do for her argument?
What is the argument?
How does
I
that?
don't know what the data is from USDHSS.
What was that other than just a refusal to engage with the argument? So the argument that she's making is
what the argument is.
Well, here I'll explain it.
Data collected is.
Yeah, the argument that she's making
Can you tell me
is
what the data is, Andrew? Can you tell me?
Yeah,
well,
she's just told you it's collected by the USDHHS. It says over the last 50 years, it's showing that children who are living in separated.
Basically, a tweet line.
All right, let's. You asked the question.
I guess you just want to engage.
Andrew, you can explain. Yeah.
I mean, what's the data? Like, what are the details of the data? I haven't seen the study.
He's going to explain it, so go for it, Andrew.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, what she's claiming is, at least according to this, that, and I think you actually would see that people who are in living situations where they're cohabitating, that it's way worse for children, especially when it's women who are cohabitating with their own children, right? It's way worse for children. She's saying that the USDHHS is showing that if you're in a living situation where it's the case that you're splitting custody, just like you would be in a divorce, and you're in this case, the living situation you explained, where you buy her a condo and you just share the custody of the kids, leads to the same exact outcomes of depression, abuse, addiction, which follows if you're divorced, and it leads to those outcomes because of the separation of family. Why wouldn't it lead to those outcomes if you just purposely separate the family?
Well, you don't purposely separate the families. Like getting divorced and having family law apply these rules to your life creates these outcomes, doesn't it? You don't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government so that you have at least some control over the situation and a bargaining chip.
Well, I don't.
I'm in agreement.
She's living separate from you.
Good access to the children with both parents.
Yeah, but she's living separate from you, right?
Well, you're still the head of the household. You're still paying for everything.
Well, I don't. The thing is, though, is that if you're in a distinct,
the children, you still have access to the children. You still make decisions. Like when women get divorced, they often unilaterally make their own decisions. They'll make decisions for medical procedures, where to live, what school zone to put the kids in, whether or not to change the kids' names and shit like that. You don't have that happen when you're parenting those children.
You do. When you're divorced,
separate households.
Hang on. When you're divorced, and you're
that looks like marriage to the government.
When you're divorced and awarded joint custody, right? You're also at the head of your household.
No, you're not.
How are you not?
You know that because Rachel has been divorced a couple times. You know the difficulties that are involved with co-parenting children. And
yeah, but if you didn't have stepchildren, why wouldn't you be? And they were all your biological children. How would that be the case that you're not in charge of your own household?
No, you don't have the same authority in a separated environment as you do when you lead.
I don't understand. Help me out here so I can understand this. So you're a guy. All your children are yours. They're
You've never
all
been divorced, right? Like you don't have
every one of them is biologically yours. The conditional of whatever my personal has nothing to do with the argument.
No, but I'm asking you very.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. I'm asking you. It's irrelevant. I'm asking you this question
because I'm asking you if you've lived through it. So if you know
why, that's totally irrelevant. The question becomes this: if it is the case that you have joint custody of your children with, I don't know, woman B, they're all your children, right? You're splitting custody. In this case, what would the distinction there be between you're still doing the same exact arrangement and splitting custody? The difference is the state's compelling you to pay child support in one, but not compelling you in the other, but could compel you to pay child support in the other if the woman so chose. I don't understand where the big advantage is.
We're going to move on after this, guys.
when you're living together or living in a way where you're in control as the head of the household, you influence the upbringing of the children. You influence the decision making. You talk to any guy that's been divorced, that is living separately and has even shared custody. Let's grant you shared custody, which happens 20% of the time, 80% of the time. She's the primary caregiver, right? So she has custody, so she makes the decisions. So in the 20% of the cases where you share custody, men still find it very, very difficult to co-parent with the ex because she has all this authority in the separated environment. It's not good. I agree. It's not good.
Yeah, but I don't understand how she doesn't still have authority in the separated environment here. If she can still pursue,
you have less authority when you're separated versus the model that I generated.
A lot more questions to come, guys. Mighty Maximus over on the Stream Elements side. If you don't want to give any money to YouTube, guys, the Stream Elements side over there sent 50 and said just showing support. Thank you very much, Mighty Maximus. Sniper Mike sent 20 on YouTube for the grift. Thank you, sir. Just Gerald said back taxes. Terribly sorry for the delay, but we talk about 35% interest. Nate Tripp sent 5 memberships. Mighty Maximus sent a whole bunch. Smash the like button, he says. Thank you, sir.
Mighty Maximus is very generous.
He is a very generous man indeed. I can also see if anybody sends super chats to Rich, by the way, guys. That's going to show up for me. So if you guys want to, then send them through. Zombie, kind of a gay question, but it says, Rich, who hurt you?
Apparently, Andrew Wilson hurt me today.
Mighty Maximus again. Now,
That's
this
all
kind
you
of
got is who hurt me, not you're a homosexual, you got a small pee-pee. Come on, you got to do better than that.
Usually women will dive into that if the first one doesn't work.
Yeah.
What's this?
It's usually always about the dude's penis.
It's definitely worth getting married and having family on your deathbed. Sure. I mean, children are wonderful. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think that you should have children if you want to have them, but do it in an intelligent way that minimizes the risk.
Mighty Maximus
become heavily religious. No, I'm kidding. That mitigates the risk.
Sure.
All right, World Radio, a little bit lower, but it was a good question. Rich you keep touting bliss in marriage, so problematic, choosing to ignore joy and the choice of love, last romance commitments. What do you value?
I mean, that's what they were collecting data on is, do people still love each other after 8.94 years or whatever it was, and less than 13% do. The rest of them are living in a state that isn't love. Disagreement, contempt, I don't know. I mean, but living together generally doesn't facilitate long-term romance and love in relationships. There are exceptions. Clearly, Andrew and Rachel have a great relationship. Good for them. But that's the exception from what generally happens for most people.
But remember here, ladies and gentlemen, that there wasn't actually any demonstration that living apart over a sequence of many years is going to do anything to increase love from a scientific perspective, just from an anecdotal.
All we know is what happens when you live together in close proximity and are very familiar with one another.
But that doesn't mean that you prescribe not to do that, because that's better without any scientific proof. That's insane to me.
Okay, well, maybe they'll study that one day for you and we can have that conversation.
Well, I mean, shouldn't we have the conversation studied before the prescription's in place?
Well, I can tell you from experience that it works a lot better than married people.
All right, a couple coming in from Rachel here said the state of Utah had granted women suffrage in 1870. The right was rescinded in 1887 by the Edmunds-Tucker Act until it was reinstated in 1920 under the 19th Amendment. We can giveth and taketh away.
Like we did with Roe v. Wade.
And also says it sounds like Rich is the same as women who want to shift these burdens onto children so that he can have what he wants. How is this different from the women who divorce so they can be happy and have what they want?
I don't understand the question. What's that supposed to mean?
Well, she's saying women are often the number one reason that they're getting divorced for, can't reconcile or whatever.
Is boredom, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they want stuff. It's some material condition they're not happy with, or some feeling that they're not happy with. And she's just saying, if they're willing to put their children through all that hell because they're not happy with their situation, isn't your prescription essentially doing the same thing there?
No, because you're still leading the relationship. She's still following your lead. You're paying the bills. You're still parenting the children. You have the authority in the household. I don't know why that's confusing.
Because there doesn't seem to be any mitigation of the risk of her just pursuing child support anyway.
Why would she pursue just child support when she can have everything else?
Yeah, why do wives do that when they could just have everything else? You know what I
the
mean?
point, exactly. Why would she? So listen, why would she pursue child support, which might amount to a small fraction of the value that she's getting right now, living in a way where she's under his authority? He's paying for everything. He's parenting the children. He loves the woman. He loves the children. It's just he doesn't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. He's still following his lead. He still
I
has
don't
authority in the
understand
household, right?
how
Like,
this
you
is
follow me on that.
beneficial to the man or the child still, honestly.
Sorry, man. Say that again. Just back up 5 seconds.
I don't actually understand how this is overly beneficial to the children or the man. It seems
The
like he's
children
still at
don't
the
have the
mercy
same
of
access
this.
to the father.
If a man can afford, for instance, to put his woman up in some other house and pay for that and his own
Mhm.
and this type of thing, then I don't understand why she wouldn't just pursue child support if she's still going to get a big windfall there.
Why would she pursue child support if she's happy and in love with the man?
Yeah, but you see, that would be the same case for marriage, though. So this is the thing. I don't understand what's the mitigating factor here.
The chances of, I mean, you eliminate most of the risk factors with family law from the get-go. I mean, we've talked about that. I don't know why we have to establish that again. But
Because you aren't. You're just saying that
it's already been
they can
established.
still
I think
pursue
viewers
it.
would agree that it's been established. And then the second part to that is you're not living in a way that's not conducive to a productive, healthy relationship. Most people that live together don't like each other.
That
Most
doesn't
people that don't
demonstrate that
live
people who
together
don't.
actually like each other.
That doesn't demonstrate that people who don't live together for many years, raising children together, do like each other. That there's no demonstration of that. It's just anecdote again.
Well, I mean, you have the data from the study we talked about earlier.
That data doesn't prove that people who aren't living together in
They're not in
long-term
love.
relationships become happier over time.
The
That's
vast
not what that
majority of people
shows.
that live together are not in love.
That
All right,
doesn't
we're gonna move
prove
on,
that
guys.
people who
That's
don't live
living
together
and
are.
being married and having children is being in love.
We don't
isn't
have
it?
too much time. I know, Rich, you probably might have to bail soon. You did say you had to be out 20 minutes ago, so just let me know if you
Go ahead.
do have to bail at any point.
I
On
appreciate
Rich's
you
side
calling me.
here, Agent Neptune for 10 said Rich W. Michael Darling, whatever that says, for 20 says we had thousands of years of historical strong families under multiple religion and religious patriarchies. Liberalism's a short-term failed experiment. I think we would all kind of agree with liberalism being a failed experiment.
Well, it hasn't failed yet, but it's going to fail. Yes.
Yep. So I guess the sort of crux of this one is avoidance not being the solution. So why would you
It's
want to
not
live with
avoidance.
yourself over your child and your mother?
It's not avoidance. You can love a woman and not live with her or live in a way that looks like marriage. It's not avoidance. You still have a relationship and you can still be a father. It's avoidance of Andrew's prescription.
Blaine said for Rich's sippy cup fund.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Make sure you send that $20 to me, Jake. I wouldn't mind having a nice sippy cup.
Get your Rattlesnake TV mug. Hey?
Sippy cups are underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Edward said, what's the point of life if you're not trying to raise kids and give them the best start? Your bloodline and values are gone. I don't see how you give kids real stability without marriage.
I just explained it to you. I don't know why that's confusing.
Because there's no scientific evidence that proves it.
Woman, you parent the children, you just don't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, where it's hostile towards men.
That's just cohabitation then.
No,
and
you're
those
not
lead to
actually
terrible
cohabitating.
outcomes.
You're actually not cohabitating.
No, well, then I don't know.
Residences, so you don't live in a way that looks like marriage.
Yeah, right. But and this is going to require some serious wealth too, right?
So make some money, be successful.
Yeah, right. So I mean, this is
work.
completely unachievable for the normal person. Totally unachievable. What you're talking about, like the average 20-something-year-old cannot achieve the you live in another residence and then I pay for everything.
With Christianity and monogamy from the get-go is it's lowered the standard considerably, right? Like the society's outcomes have been reduced by let's make sure everybody has children. Let's make sure everybody has one woman, right?
Oh yeah, you mean leading to like one of the most stable societal structures which has ever existed in all of mankind?
I'm guessing you're not familiar with the construction methods of the pyramids of Giza that they cannot reproduce today. That was an ancient society. that was not monogamous, didn't follow Christianity, and far superior to what we deal with
That
today.
doesn't mean that the society itself was stable because they had a feat of magnificence. That's ridiculous. That's not even a correlate to a good society.
You should have a look at some of these ancient megalithic structures, and you'll understand that today's society is retarded in comparison to what they built and how they built it.
Wait a second. That's absurd on its face. The thing is that you can take a look at feats of Roman engineering as well, including their aqueducts.
Which
we can't do gold plating the same way that they did either. We don't even understand, nor can we do underwater fire, which they had access to.
You want to talk about the Temple of Jupiter?
Their societies
that
themselves.
The Romans built on top of something that already existed that they couldn't produce themselves.
Yeah, I got it.
Roman architecture.
You're not demonstrating those societies were stable.
Ancient architecture from lost civilizations. You can't say today's world is far better than what existed before.
No, I'm saying that the society
today that is clearly superior to what we can produce today.
So you're saying that polygamy leads to monolithic structures?
Maybe. I don't know. We don't have all the answers to that, but Christianity.
Fuck, if only I had 5 wives, then we'd start building fucking pyramids. It's like, what? If I had 5 wives, pyramids are coming. I got 4 more wives. I'm going to build a Lego pyramid. It's like, that's just silly, right? That one doesn't lead to the other. That's illogical.
Be silly. Yeah, that's far superior structures to this day.
It's illogical to state that because people lived in a more degenerate way, at least from my view, that somehow is going to mean that they build megalithic, monolithic structures. I don't even know how you leap logically from one to the next.
All right, boys. I don't know how we got into megalithic structures. I wasn't expecting that today. So Chaw says, I'm so confused. Is the solution here to be a gooner and bury our head in the sand and hope the religious people fix the problem for you? That's pretty feminine.
Again,
so it's more on the societal.
Is that what I said? Like, that's what you took from it? You cannot be that slow.
Gravios sent 50 Rattlesnake TV memberships. Thank you very much. That's extremely generous of you, Gravios. Much appreciated. Bass said, I want Rich to actually contend with the children's well-being. To speak frankly, what father would want their children to have a harder life apart from them when they can be together and influence them constantly?
Where did I recommend that that's an ideal outcome? I'm in agreement with Andrew Wilson that it's good for both parents to have good access to the children and parent them simultaneously. I'm just saying, don't do it in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You can love a woman, you can have children, and not live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, and be a part of their lives and raise them and influence them and send them upon the world as winners. You can absolutely do all of that.
Are they going to be living apart from you some of the time here?
Some of the time, yes. Yeah.
Half the time?
Depends on how you want to schedule your week. You might.
I don't know. So what he's saying is like, they can be together with their children constantly. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but
dad's at home all the time
with you live together. You're not together with your children constantly. Like, I'm sure when you were raising your kids, Andrew,
you are daily.
Kids constantly. You were at work. You were away from time.
But I was with them daily.
Okay. You could do the same thing if you wanted, living in a way that doesn't look like marriage. You could go over. You could buy a house next door and walk over next door and parent those kids and have dinner with them every day and tuck them into bed and come back to your own house and not live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. But this is the bullshit that you have to cook up so that you can avoid family law and the nonsense.
Do you think that if somebody investigated that in a serious way because a woman made a claim that they do fall under common law marriage because they're over at your house X amount of time and you split it, that the government wouldn't just come in and be like, okay, so you were just trying to bullshit us?
I think that the potential exists, but I also think that you can structure it in such a way that you minimize it significantly more than just living like a pleb marriage where you get a whore wife that's been run through and a dork that doesn't know how to run the relationship, and they get divorced and lose half their shit because
there's no guarantee that because you do an arrangement this way, you're not going to get a whore girlfriend who's run through.
At least I'm offering a reasonable prescription to solve the problem today, Andrew.
No, I don't think it does. I don't think it does, but I don't understand. I don't actually understand the last thing you said. Why is you getting married guarantee that you're going to get a whore wife who's been run through versus if you just date them and put them in a different house, that somehow guarantees they're not a whore girlfriend that's been run through?
Okay, let's keep going on.
Normal America with Rob Knorr says, can you read my last yellow super chat I sent as a favor to me, the trivia champion? That is just complete and utter bullshit. He's calling himself the trivia champion.
He was the trivia champion.
No,
I
he
heard.
wasn't. He's won one. I've won one. It's best out of 3. But Rob says, says his experience is non-marriage and putting women up in houses would lead to more love. Is this working for him now? Is he currently in bliss or love, or is he just doing hookups?
I do what I want to do, and I don't describe my lifestyle or the people that I talk to. But what I'm doing works for me, and I promise you, if I showed it to you privately, Andrew, or compared notes, you'd be very impressed.
Do you do dishes?
Do I do dishes?
Yeah.
Rarely.
I don't want to do dishes ever.
I don't cook. I rarely cook. I rarely.
Yeah, but I don't want to take out trash.
The cleaner
or do
comes over
dishes.
and does everything.
I don't want to do any
laundry.
chores. Like, I don't ever want to do any chores ever. I
I
just
know, so
just
you and
want
I
the-
are in
I just
agreement.
want my
Only
wife to
I'm
do
not
all of that
exposed
shit.
to the risks of family law the way that I've structured things.
I don't know. I think a prenup sounds like it's just as reasonable as what you're asking
They're only
for.
good,
here.
what, 70, 80% of the time? And the more time that you apply to a prenup, the less valuable that it is. The longer she stays home and doesn't work, the less valuable the prenup is. You know that.
70 to 80% of the time's a lot.
Sure. I mean, if you apply it 3 or 4 years after marriage, but if she's been a stay-at-home mom for 12 years and hasn't worked, you know exactly what they do, man. I've seen.
Then what you do
argument.
is every 4 years you re-up a new pre-up, don't you?
If she agrees to signing it, yeah.
If she
sure.
doesn't and you leave her then
Or
with
you
the
can
prenup,
avoid all of that by not living in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You don't have to jump through any of those.
you have to
hoops.
have significant wealth to do that. That's not achievable for most men.
Okay, make money. What's the
The
problem? bud?
cynic
Because
for
that's not
20.
achievable. We can't all be rich, dude.
Okay, so when are you going to start working on legislation that changes things so men can't get fucked?
We have been. That's all I've been pushing for years.
I haven't seen anything.
You haven't seen Roe
Where
v.
is
Wade
it?
get overturned? You haven't seen that?
Roe versus Wade. Yeah, we already covered that. It's got to do with abortion. That doesn't have to do with family law.
Yeah, but that's one aspect of
Let's
women
see
being
it
able to
start
kill
applying
men's.
family
That's an
law,
aspect
man.
of
I'm
women
looking for
being able to
something
kill
solid
men's
here.
children.
I'm
That
looking
is a
for
men's
something
rights
solid
advocate.
here, bro. Something
Yeah, dude,
solid
okay,
to sink my
whatever.
teeth into.
Yeah, here's something you sink your teeth into. It was the law of the land in the United States that women could at will kill men's fucking children without their consent. Yeah, that's a men's rights issue, dude, and
They
a
can
pretty
still do
major
it.
one
And they can still do it.
in some states.
They still routinely do it.
In some
All
states.
they'll do is they'll go to the next state, Andrew. The problem hasn't been solved.
It's mitigated it greatly, and it's at least done something.
Okay, let's do the
The
next one. Go ahead.
cynic for 20 over here says all relationships with everyone are annoying. The idea of being happy or unhappy is par for the course. Using that as an excuse to abandon or avoid creating a family is a weak argument.
Never said, again, I never said don't have kids. I don't know why this is confusing to people.
Because they're confused about the outcomes metric. How you're going to create the same outcomes that married couples are going to create for their kids in the situation you described.
Outcomes if you're parenting the children and you have the authority in the household.
Even though they live apart from you?
Next door. Let's use next door as an example, Andrew.
And you think that the government's not going to be able to figure out your dastardly plan of your girlfriend who you have kids with, who lives right next door to you? Oh, we're not actually cohabitating, though, Your Honor, even though she's suing me for child support right now. That seems silly to me, man. Honestly, it
Okay,
does.
So your solution is just go get married, bro, and love God more.
Hardly. I gave a huge mitigation for solutions here. On top of that, a prenuptial agreement would be even better than what you're proposing. You just re-up it every 4 years. You can even put that in the prenup that you have to re-up the prenup every 4 years. You can even put it in there.
Or you
And
can
that's
not
cheap.
do it all together and just not live in a way that looks like marriage to the government.
As long as it's achievable for men who have wealth, sure. That's going to be like 2% of men.
Okay.
From the entrepreneurs in cars side, guys, Supreme Emperor Kiza says, guys, I have a solution to marriage. Default custody rights to fathers with mothers paying child support and lifetime alimony along with abortion equals capital punishment. Any objections?
That's irrational ultimately, at least prescriptively.
Bring it on.
Tighten Up said for 20, Rich, perhaps we should change the cruelty of government towards men instead of changing the framework of marriage.
I mean, men have always been disposable throughout history, so I don't think you're going to see much change in a strong enough direction that it'll be a significant improvement that would encourage more men to get married. So let's just put it that way.
The problem with the disposability argument is that, yes, it is true, but that kind of misses the forest through the trees. Yes, men have been disposable throughout history, but they've also always made the rules for women who were more disposable from the patriarchal standpoint, meaning they were always a lesser status than the men who were disposable, which is why
Not
almost
anymore. Now
all
they're
societies
superior.
were patriarchal.
Yeah, I agree with you, but now they're superior to men.
I think that they're not. I think that they always have to appeal to the patriarchy in order to get in order to dismantle the patriarchy. I don't think there's a way around that.
Over on the Stream Elements side, Eon said Egypt is a pyramid scheme for 20, and Sniper Mike says, does this guy have
Oh, you're not
kids
putting
coming
them up on the
from?
screen, Jake.
Yeah,
Egypt's
no,
a pyramid scheme was clever. Come on, that was clever. He said Egypt's a pyramid scheme is fucking clever.
It was
It's a dad joke, but it was clever.
These can't come up on the screen, unfortunately, because they're on a different website. But the other one says, does this guy have kids coming over for an hour every day after work and before bed isn't being a father? I'm there 100% of the time, bad dreams, sick, whatever the case. I'll take the risk in modernity to be a good father.
I would argue that you could be a very good father with a few hours a day of work. Yeah. You don't have to, like, most of parenting, especially when children are small, is mother's work. Fathers should not be required to be changing diapers or kid cries in the middle of the night or any of that bullshit. That's like women's work.
For the tender
Any
years.
objections, Andrew?
For the tender years,
tender
No,
years.
well, I mean, I think that largely it falls under the woman's domain to be the primary caregiver in the tender years directly to the child until they reach the age of rationality. And then I think that shifts and that they need the masculine at that point. What's that?
After about the age of 5 or 6, I think dad should be doing more of the parenting.
Maybe 7, like age of rationality, or 8, but 8, whatever we consider the age of rationality to be. It's 6. I'm willing to concede 6. I'm not saying that that's a bad number. I'm not sure what age.
I mean, you do agree that
is
fathers do a far
rationality.
better job raising children than women alone, yeah?
Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah, the data. Okay, good.
Of
All
course.
right.
Of course. Yeah, of course. The thing is, though, is like, I understand the feminist cope on that too. I wreck them on it all the time. But the point is that the tender years, I do think that women are going to, like, they're a necessary caregiver. And I do think that children do need that. And then the aspect needs to flip over the age of rationality, that they see the primary dominion as being the man, not necessarily that they still have to give the most amount of interpersonal care. I don't think that that's the necessity portion, but rather they see inside and out that men are not actually dangerous. Men are not actually horrible. Men are not actually monsters. Men actually are there for a purpose, an ontological purpose put here by God, at least from my view. And men are good. Men are benevolent, ultimately.
All right.
Yeah, I
well,
agree
the
with
last one I've got here is from Basado saying, Sarah Stock nuked this whole ortho or Catholic marriage is worth it meme. Also, Rachel needs to apologize to Pearl. Pearl clocked Sarah in August whilst Rachel was simping for Sarah. I think that's
Nobody owes
more
Pearl an
towards-
apology. She's retarded.
Well, there's two
towards
things
Andrew.
there. The first thing is that Rachel's also gotten it right when Pearl's gotten it wrong. I'll point that out. And then the second thing is that there was no pre-information where anybody knew exactly what was going on. You have to deal with information as it comes out. But how an individualized case of a skank doing skank shit is going to fucking do anything compared to the statistics which are available to us that we can actually gravitate towards and utilize, at least to some degree, for prescriptive claims. I don't know how Sarah Stock fucking Schaefer does anything against that. I think that whole situation is pretty foul.
I mean, the problem with that argument, though, Andrew, is like the tradcon, religious consort has a lot of egg on their face over the last few years. Like giving women a microphone was a bad idea, because this is what you end up
That
with.
wasn't Tradcons who did that.
What's that?
That wasn't Tradcons who gave him the microphone.
I'm not saying that it was, specifically, but I mean, you have so many of these like sex scandals now over the last few years with all these traditional conservative style broadcasters that also associate with religion looking really, really fucking bad.
Schaefer was not a Christian, for one thing. People forget this constantly, but Schaefer had only recently, after he had begun banging her, by the way, decided that he was going to make the movement pivot towards Christianity, which that's very similar to what Nala Ray did. That's one. These people weren't exactly entrenched in their value structures for decades, or even attempting it for longer than a year or two. And Sarah Stock, right, She's young, and I don't even know how the fuck she got on the scene. I always thought she was a dummy, but that was just me. You know what I mean? When you say
that wears a crucifix and talks in a microphone, she's going to get eyeballs. Like, that's why they use them.
Of course, I don't even disagree with that.
That's why you get the Lauren Southerns. That's why you get
totally
the
agree.
Michaela Petersons. Like,
totally agree. But when we're talking about trad cons, like the idea of trad, me and my wife both think is retarded. I think it's just stupid. It has nothing to do with what the advocation is. The advocation is based around Christian ethics, not traditionalism. Traditionalism, there's all sorts of things about traditionalism which are retarded. But the Christian ethics is the timeless portion. That's where the advocation comes in. It's like with the Sarah Stock thing, you're right. There's tons of sex scandals within all kinds of churches. There ain't no doubt that that's true. And with all sorts of arbiters of a specific morality or this type of thing end up in all sorts of scandal. But it's not like secularists or non-Christians are immune from this. Let's take, I don't know, Destiny. He ended up doing all the Coomer shit he was doing, ended up giving out, underage pics, perhaps. Vosh ended up with horsecock and lolicon on his fucking computer. Fucking, like the list goes on and on and on of the non-Christian degenerates out there. And it's like, well, those guys over there got egg on their face. It's like, I think they're fucking pretty clean in comparison to the opposition.
I mean, trust me, Andrew, I don't like Destiny, and I'm not defending this retard, but they don't LARP as being better. They don't LARP as being
they do.
Like
they do it in a different way.
Sort of angle to life. Whereas
Destiny's whole thing is consent. It's all about consent, man. While he's non-consensually sharing women's fucking shit, that is a LARP. It's the same shit. It's a fucking LARP. It's you LARPing about a value structure you don't have or even care about. It's the same shit.
Right. But I mean, if you hold out to the public that my club, like AKA my religion, is the best, and then you behind the scenes are covertly acting degenerate, you're like, it's not a good look for the religion. And that's one of the arguments. Like, that's one of the things that I struggle with Christianity, because it tolerates too much, right? Like, why are they baptizing these disgusting whores that have run through 2,000 dicks in a day? Because the religion said, like, there's got to be a line in the sand where it's like, no, we can't, we're not going to do you. Sorry.
I'll give you the answer to this. They aren't. Heresy churches, which run massive baptismal services.
But I'm not hearing like the mainstream churches protest it.
They do, actually. They say that women, so for instance, like Catholics and Orthodox, right? Well, you probably haven't looked, but you should. Catholics and Orthodox have a waiting period, for instance. You don't just go in and get baptized. You have to go through a catechesis before you can get baptized and become a member of the church. It takes a year or two, or often 3. And the whole point of that is so that you can be vetted to make sure that you can enter the body of the church. And if you're doing shit that you're not supposed to do, like, I don't know, having an entire ministry that you made up so that you could sell a grift, they tend to go, nah.
They just give it to anybody.
So it is the case. Who does?
Like, they just do these drive-through baptisms for these whores because it's like one of these ministries that doesn't align with the original scriptures.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that there are
got to be a lot more noise.
There are traditional churches.
This is wrong. You got to say this is wrong. This is retarded. This needs to stop.
They were, and they still are. The traditional churches have been screaming about it.
I didn't see any of that.
How are you going to say you didn't see that when I was engaging directly with Nala Ray and told her I'm not going to take biblical advice from a chick who's had 50 dicks in her mouth? That's crazy.
I don't know, Andrew. Maybe X didn't want to show it to me that day. I don't know. I mean, I can't spend all day following you fucking everything you do.
Not following me.
I listened to enough podcasts of you this week walking on the freaking treadmill.
I'm just saying, I don't know how you can levy and be like the traditional churches aren't condemning it, because they are. That's all I'm saying.
Over on the entrepreneurs and cars side,
a more overt statement of it. That's all.
Okay, that's fair.
Doug says, I wish Andrew had a better argument for marriage than just marry these 304s because God got you, bro. Also, Andrew is advocating for a prenup, worldly protections for a Christian marriage. Great discussion.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm super confused. Did anybody ever advocate that you marry a 304? Who did that?
I didn't hear
Was it that guy? That guy? This guy? Who the fuck did I don't understand. How do you listen to an entire debate and you're so fucking stupid that you then ask a question about a statement not a single fucking person made, discussed, talked about, and already agreed was not a good, like, how do you even manage that? What's the IQ level of people?
When I read these comments saying that I'm telling people not to have kids?
What is the IQ level of humanity where this is what they come up with? Wish I got a better argument out of Andrew than the argument he didn't make.
All right, Andrew, also this one's for you. Do you think that born-again virgins are really virgins? Do you agree
No.
with churchmen being pressured into not leaving their unfaithful wives, feminism in churches, men only ones doing abstinence?
First of all, that's fucking bullshit. You're not going to see significant church pressure saying, oh, your wife was unfaithful, then fuck, you are obligated to stay. Not at all. In fact, you're going to find the same type of counseling that you would find in marriage from the secularist, except there's actually some kind of teeth there which reaffirms it due to belief. Inside of secular marriages, if you go in for marriage counseling, and you're trying to work through issues of unfaithfulness, they're going to give you all sorts of advice too. My suggestion, though, is that if your wife is fucking unfaithful, you fucking leave that bitch. That's one. And two, I'll give you the other one. No, born again virgins is made up fucking bullshit.
I have a question for you. Why is religion always the final form for whores?
You mean, well, here's the thing. In many ways,
why are the churches saying no?
Yeah, in many ways, it kind of should be the final form. You're not supposed to be grifting with it. It's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be, you come in, you're like, man, I'm a fucking sinner and I fucked everything up and I screwed it all up and I just can't believe I did. And then you have humility, right? You stop the action. Never in history, when women came in for the mercy of the church from prostitution, things like this, they were called to a life of repentance, not called to a life of touring, speakership, and money. That's a new phenomenon, and it's purely built on social media.
But it's very common in the church. Like, question for you: when God chose the mother of his son, who did he choose?
Mary,
the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
But the churches routinely forgive these whores. So again, why is this accepted in the church? Why would
hang on,
always the final form for whores?
Because, well, first of all, from the worldview of the non-religious, there isn't even and
it's not that I'm non-religious, by the way.
Yeah, but I'm going to explain. From the worldview of the non-religious, you can't even critique whores. Like, what would you critique them for? Oh, they're out there prostituting themselves and making money. Like, what's the criticism? It's all morally relative at that point. So who cares? From the position of the church, who believes that almost everything can be forgiven through humility and through the bastion of the church, having women come in to stop activities which are horrific, that's a good thing. It's never was supposed to be that somehow they then had a traveling fucking clown show where they went on the road and started explaining to people scripture and this. That was never a thing. That never happened until modernity and social media. That's a brand new phenomenon.
Well, it's up to the churches to shut that shit down then if it's not acceptable. Is that acceptable? Or?
I can't do anything about heresychurch.com, dude. But the classic churches fucking hate it. They won't even, if you go through a catechism, which she never did, most of these women never do, they just go to heresychurch.com, get baptized. The traditional churches, which have a catechesis program before you're accepted in, they don't allow any of that shit. None of it. They'll excommunicate your fucking ass for doing shit like that.
We did have one more coming from...
Even me, like, here, I'll give you an example. Even me, let's say that I came out tomorrow and I was like, here's an orthodox like guide for marriage and what Orthodox should be doing in marriage and blah, 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 blah. And I had a guide and I was selling it and shit like that. I think the church would fuck me up real bad for that. And I think that that's probably rational and reasonable and it makes sense to me. So.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Statement here saying Andrew is considerably too generous to Catholics that aren't opposing Vatican II. Rich, the Orthodox Church is holding the standard that Andrew is saying it does. Look up St. Mary of Egypt, who repented for her lifetime. And Nicodemus.
Yeah, St. Mary. Yeah. St. Mary, the story very quickly to speak to what you were saying. St. Mary was a prostitute for many, many, many years. When she went over to repentance, she shut herself away from everybody and literally focused on repentance for the rest of her life, kept herself secluded from the general public in humility. That was always supposed to be the purpose of people moving towards righteousness and virtue from a life of sin, not the idea that you were going to do the traveling clown roadshow, dude.
And Nicodemus said from the Crucible, this guy's position is enabling the woman and the man to have other partners living separately with no way to hold either accountable, as with the bonds of marriage and infidelity clauses when it comes to divorce laws in many states.
I'm assuming
I don't know.
This guy is talking about me. That's not what I'm saying, man. I'm like, you can love a woman not live with her, and have children and still run it all.
Sure, but I just think that necessarily, if this was done even in mass, let's say, like 20% of men somehow accumulated the wealth to do this, that it would necessarily lead to more positions where strange men were coming into the household of the girlfriend, at that point, which would lead to these same outcomes as what he's talking about.
Well, nothing stops strange men from coming in the household of married women. It
It's
routinely happens where they're like, dude, I know lots of guys that have come home from work and found their wives
Sure.
fucking another dude in the family bed.
But I can tell you it's far more likely for a woman who's married to not bring somebody to her home to sleep with them as much as it is a girlfriend who's living separately to bring a different guy to her apartment and sleep with him.
I mean, you could also argue that because they're living together, maybe that's why she's got the contempt and disgust for him versus the ones that don't live together. We can go back and forth with this all day long, man.
On Rich's side, it said To Thrive said less than 5% have bodies past, less than 5% have under 5
Yeah, it's
bodies
disgusting. I
by the
fully
age
agree.
of 23. It's gross. That is pretty gross. And Reverse Massage says, who's more likely to keep your progeny from you, a wife or your side sniz? Progeny's outcomes above your own degen selfish interests. More likely to keep your progeny from you, a wife or side chick.
You're asking me?
I think it's for you, yeah.
I think you could do it. Again, I think you can love a woman, not live with her, and have children if you really want to do that.
Yep. Well, that pretty much summarizes it, fellas. We're going to have all of your links below there, including Rich's book and Andrew, all of your stuff too. So, Rich, where can everybody find you? Where's the best places?
Centrally, richcooper.ca. You'll find everything that you need from me there.
Yep. And Andrew?
Yeah, you can find me on The Crucible on YouTube, The Extravaganza Daily on Rumble. You can also get my guide to debate, debateuniversity.com. It's quite good. Actually, Politico did an article where I think they were trying to really beat the shit out of it. And instead, the guy was like, actually, this is really good. So I think it shocked people. But I appreciate the debate from Rich Cooper. I don't hold any hard feelings in these debates and never have. I think that it's good to flesh these worldviews out. And I know that these exchanges can be somewhat uncomfortable, but that's part of dialogue. So I appreciate it and hope we can do it again sometime.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me.
Sure.
My pleasure. Andrew, you can stick around if you want for a little bit. Rich, really appreciate you coming in, man, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good
All
night,
right.
guys.
Take care of yourself. What's happening?
What's up, man?
You reckon we can get this thing to 1,000 subscribers?
Yeah, I think we can. So I wanted to do a call to action. We have an official Clips channel. Sorry, everybody. We are going to be shutting down all of the alternative Clips channels. And so I'm going to put everybody on notice right now, right? The alternative Clips channels are going to be shut down. And we can basically do that whenever we choose to, but I would prefer that we not have to do it. But the clips are going to be on an official Clips channel. So here's what it is.
We've got it on screen as well.
You got it on screen? Okay. Yeah, right there. Andrew Wilson Clips official. Okay. Andrew Wilson Clips official is what we're going to have. Now, the thing is like people been cutting a fat hog off my clips for a long time. And so it was either this or we just shut them down. You know what I mean? And I would prefer not to do that. So that's where everyone needs to go. Andrew Wilson Clips official. Most of these other Clips channels are going to be shut down, whether they do it by, whether they actually volunteer to do it because it's not their shit, or we have to, send off DMCAs, which I've never had to send one of those. I really don't want to. So now it could be the case that some people are running some like Clips channels and things like that, where we'll allow some forms of clips for them to still put up, right? But this is the official Clips channel where I want people to go. So
awesome. And I believe you guys have got that in the Crucible chat over there, or maybe we can put it in the Crucible chat there too. And let's get this
Oh
bad
yeah,
boy
dude.
over.
I know that the bunch of you who probably run clips on me all the fucking time are very, very upset that you can't steal my shit anymore. But fuck off. Like, you were never authorized clips channels to begin with. You just started stealing my fucking shit. You just started stealing my content. And it's not like you don't even fucking change it. That's what makes it so easy. Is it's not even fair use. You don't even cheat. You just rip it immediately and just post it. And it's
Yeah.
like, fuck you, dude. You're not even doing commentary. Like, if you're ever doing commentary or transformative content, you're never going to hear anything from me.
Yep.
Ever. But you don't just rip my stuff and put it on your fucking site. That's crazy.
Yeah, I hit one with a copyright strike the other day that literally just grabbed the debate that I did with you and the transhumanist guy. They just uploaded 50 minutes of the debate without doing anything transformative, nothing whatsoever. Just like uploaded 50 minutes of the debate itself. So,
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't be fucking lazy. Make transformative content. I'm not here to fucking support you. So
Yeah, you got a lot of other channels that they'll play the debate. And then
yes, they do. They do
they'll comment on
transformative
it.
content, and that's fine. Do transformative content, but you got to stop ripping me off. That's bullshit. So anyway, this is the official Clips channel. That's where I want all of you guys to go. That's the only one that's endorsed by the Crucible. Nobody else has permission to run our clips. No more.
527 guys. I wonder if we can get it over 1,000. I wonder if it's possible to get it over 1,000 today. But yeah, it's like someone said to me, "Oh, well, you should just maybe ask them to just take it down instead." And I said, "Well, it's like legitimate theft. If somebody steals my phone, I'm not going to be like, you know what, keep the phone, and I won't call the police."
They must have shadow banned the shit out of that channel. I searched it up for word and had to use filters. Well, unless it gets traffic, it's not going to. It has to get bumped in the algorithm by getting traffic. It just got started, so.
Yeah, it's not shadow banning at all. It's just the fact that this is literally the first time Andrew's ever promoted it. So
just fuck the haters. Yeah. Andrew, can I just take your money from you all the time? No, actually you can't. I prefer, since I put in all the fucking work and effort and energy and everything else to make great content, that you don't steal it from me. I know it's terrible. I'm a terrible guy. Smoky Man's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Smoky Man's bad.
And then where do I find the full-length content for the Crucible?
You can go to the crucible.video and become a member. But, that second Clips channel, that's the only one I endorse is the official Clips channel. That one will probably have more of the risque clips. We keep pretty sanitized ones on our channel. And but if you want full-length episodes, if you don't catch them live, which, by the way, I'm putting it out live for free every fucking day to people that I do content. If you want to catch replays, you want to catch other content, you want the whole back catalog, you can go to the crucible.video and you can get it there.
Yeah, it's all free and live and everything. And then, but like if you don't take it down and put it on the website, then you have to make like non-risque, super censored and gay content. So it makes total sense to do that.
Yeah, just add commentary to the clips. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. What happens is people are like, well, I could just fucking take 30 minutes of this, clip it, post it, right, and get paid. No, they're not putting any effort or energy into it. Fuck that. Just make it transformative. You'll never see it. I get it popped up all the time. Such and such is using your content, blah, blah, blah. Team goes, look, it's transformative. There's a guy giving commentary or they transformed it in some way. And we're like, yeah, that's fine. That's totally fair use. Totally fair use. You should be able to do that. I do that myself.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We're at 750, guys. We're at 250 more. Can we get this thing? 770 now, actually. We just need 211 more to go. Any more debates this week, Andrew? What are you doing?
Yeah, I got a bunch to prep for this week, man. It's let's see, what do we got going on? Tomorrow's Friday, right? Or no, is today Friday?
Today's Saturday for me.
Yeah, today's Friday. Sorry.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's Saturday. Everyone knows what day Saturday is. It's Invasion Day.
Invasion Day, baby.
Yeah.
Siege or invasion?
Saturday's an invasion. We got a siege coming, I think, Monday with Rob. He's actually out here helping me with a project right now. And then Sunday, we got something else going on. I don't remember what it is. So, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We won't do the siege Monday. It's Tuesday is the siege because Monday we're doing the big Dyer debate. So that one should be pretty good. The Crucible hasn't hosted a debate in a long, long time. And Dyer specifically asked. So it's like, well, I do like hosting those debates occasionally. So we'll go back to our roots and host another one. Should be good.
That'll be fantastic. I mean, when was was one of the last ones that you hosted on the Crucible would have been me and Brad Palumbo, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe even the last one. But that was like the OG sort of content. You used to just host debates, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a Siege Sunday night. I'm not sure. But yeah, we got a lot of shit going on. It's basically going to be like 6 days in a row of content. So that's why I haven't streamed the last couple of days. I've been working on a project. And I'm like, well, I got 6 days of streaming coming up. So take a couple days off while I can.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, guys, we got 130 left to go until we hit that 1,000 mark.
I'll read your dono chat. Relax. Right now, we're doing a little shilling for the Clips channel, okay?
Yeah, we're shilling.
I'll read all your donos. Calm down. I'll read them.
Yeah, yeah. And so what? The Siege is meant to be on like a different day or what?
Yeah, I alternate. Well, I would like to keep, basically every Saturday open for the invasion. You know what I mean? The Saturday night invasion is just a ton of fucking fun. I mean, everybody has a good time. I have a good time. So,
what about AW Live, bro? That's necessary too.
Yeah, well, you let me know when I get some time.
We love AW Live it's great for clipping as well.
Right now, I'm prepping because I'm going to be heading out to whatever soon for another debate series. So, like, that's happening. I think the 19th is the first day of that debate series. There's like 4 high-profile debates going on over there that I'm prepping for. It's like, you fuckers tell me when I got the time to do shit. So, I just don't have a lot of time.
Can you tell us anybody who you're debating there, or
top secret?
Well, we look forward to seeing it. 18th and 19th. What's the date today?
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's
and then near the
Day
end,
tomorrow, bro.
near the end
what
of the
are you gonna
month,
do for the wife?
something massive going on. We're going to celebrate Valentine's Day.
Yeah? You don't celebrate Valentine's Day?
No.
Not even like a little flowers or something for Rach?
Nope.
Why not? What's wrong with Valentine's
Day? We've never done that. We've just never done Valentine's Day. It just seems like commercial nonsense bullshit holiday. Because it is.
That's true. It is a little bit bullshit.
It is a little bit bullshit.
Nearly there, guys. We've got 40 more to go. And then
only 40 more?
Only 40 more to go. And then the Eclipse channel is officially over 1,000 subscribers. And look at these beautiful links here. The Crucible.video. Andrew Wilson,
so nice.
Crucible.
Let's go.
Paleo
Yeah, let's go.
Sure, we'll get there.
Yeah, it's a bullshit holiday. We've really never done it. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's a time, maybe I can't even remember a time where I was like, let's go out to dinner or something I don't think we've really ever celebrated it.
Yeah, it kind of does. I wonder where it even comes from, like the origins of Valentine's Day. From a blend of ancient Roman pagan and Christian traditions, likely combining the February fertility festival with commemoration of Christian martyrs Saint Valentine, became associated with romantic love in the 14th century, heavily influenced by poets like Geoffrey Chaucer.
So it's just a bunch of bullshit.
It appears as though that might be the case. All right, guys, 1,020 subscribers. We got there. The shill is complete. The shill is officially complete. Do appreciate you guys all sticking around for the shill. It's necessary to do a bit of a shill sometimes, you know?
It is necessary.
Shillathon. So exciting stuff coming up for you. If there's an invasion, I'll try and get in there. And it's been a while since I've actually jumped in an invasion and gotten in and been actually a part of it. So I want to do that at some stage. It's a little bit harder in Australia because I'm always working during those times, but
that's
fair. Get back in and do one. Need to get back in. All right, man. Well,
I'll let you go. You have a good day.
You take care of yourself, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you to the Crucible for joining today. See you later, guys.
See ya. Bye.
Back to Speaker View. think we've still got Rich's channel going there as well, guys. Rich's audience always helping out with the shill, which we appreciate. But yes, guys, exciting stuff there. You love to see it. Yeah, what did you guys think? Pretty good debate, hey? Any last thoughts? Any closing thoughts from anybody? Did we get any membership grifts? Let me make sure we're not missing any membership grifting. Nope. That's about it. Phenomenal. Crucible did well too. Fantastic. Alrighty, guys. Well, with that then, now that everything is accounted for, I'm going to go and enjoy my Saturday. I will speak to you guys all later. Much love to all of you. Papaya Terry with the cheeky little one membership before I leave. All right. Much love to all, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you later.